இங்க கேட்காதா அப்ப உள்ள
என்னப்பா
இப்ப
நீ பேச அது கூட பண்ணி பார்க்கலாமே.
அதுதான் கேட்கிறேன்.
என்னது
CDE MSc
CDE MCA
okay
BDU CDE -2020 password
தெரியும்.
ஹலோ சார், சிபு சார் வணக்கம். சிபு சார் வணக்கம் சார். பிபிடி வந்து எல்லாரும் இது பண்றாங்க, எதிர்பார்க்குறாங்க. சார் சவுண்ட் டிஸ்டர்பன்ஸ் இருக்கு
சார்.
சவுண்ட் டிஸ்டர்பன்ஸ் இருக்கு சார்.
ஃபேனை நான் கட் பண்ணிடுறேன்.
ஓகே, எல்லாரும் பிபிடி எதிர்பார்க்குறாங்க
சார்.
பிபிடி. ஓகே ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார், ஓகே. ஹலோ சார், சொல்லுங்க சார். வந்துட்டு ஆரம்பிச்சாச்சு சார். இல்லை இல்லை, நான் சார் சிப்பு வந்துட்டாரு லைனா. சொல்லுங்க. சரி சரி சரி, அது பண்ணிக்கலாம், அது ஒரு விஷயம். ஆமாம், அது பண்ணிக்கலாம். சரி, பஸ் ரெடியா இருக்காங்க, அவன் ஆமாம் தான் வந்தாங்க. ஓகே. இது சிப்பு சிப்பு வந்துருக்காங்க உங்க லைன்ல. அது லைவ் வந்து கதை பார்க்கணும் நீங்க. ஆமா ஆமா, லைவ்னே இருக்கும் உங்களுக்கு. சிப்பு வந்துட்டாரா? ஆன்லைன்ல வந்தேன். அதில் வந்து பாருங்க, யூனிட் 2 இருக்கா? இல்ல இல்ல, நீங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருக்க பாருங்க, லைவ் இருக்கும் ரெட் கலர்ல. நம்ம எம்பளம் இருக்கு பாருங்க, எம்பளத்தை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க, எம்பளத்தை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க. அதுல லைவ் இருக்கு பாருங்க. லைவ் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பக்கத்துல ஒரு நேர் ஏத்தாப்புல இருக்கு பாருங்க, லைவ்ல இருக்கு பாருங்க ரெட் கலர்ல. இல்ல சார், ரெட் கலர்ல அந்த எம்பளத்தை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க போதும். கிளிக் பண்ணா வருது. அதை பாருங்க, அதை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க. கீழே லைன் இருக்கும், அதை கிளிக் பண்ணீங்கன்னா வந்துடும். இப்போ அவர் சிபு சார் இது நம்ம நம்ம இதுக்கு இது இருக்கும், போர்டு இருக்கும், யூனிவர்சிட்டி. ஓகே, அவ்வளோதான் சார். ஓகே, எங்கேயோ
சார்.
சார்
Shibu sir, good morning.
Madam, good morning.
Ready ஆயிட்டீங்களாங்க சார்?
ரெடி ஆயிடுச்சு மேடம்.
சார் வரேனாங்க, கோவிந்தராஜ் சார் வரேனாங்க.
இல்ல மேடம், கோவிந்தராஜ் வந்து அங்க கிளாஸ் எடுக்கிறேன் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அவர்.
ஓகே சார், குட் மார்னிங் சார்.
குட் மார்னிங்
சார். இந்த இது ஷேரிங் யுவர் ஸ்கிரீன் ஒன்னு வருது இல்ல?
ஆமா.
அது வந்து ஸ்கிரீன்ல டச் பண்ணிட்டு ஷேர் கொடுத்தா போதும் இல்ல?
ஆமா, நீங்க மாத்தி கொடுத்துட்டீங்க. நீங்க அதுக்கு அதை ரெண்டு தடவை கிளிக் பண்ணிட்டீங்க உள்ள.
புரியல.
நீங்க வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இது கொடுக்குறீங்களா என்டையர் ஸ்கிரீன்?
ஆமா.
பிரசன்ன உள்ள கொடுத்து என்டையர் ஸ்கிரீன் கொடுங்க. ஒரு என்டையர் ஸ்கிரீன். அந்த ஒரு பாக்ஸ் வருது பாத்தீங்களா?
ஆமா.
அந்த பாக்ஸ்க்குள்ள கிளிக் பண்ணிட்டு அப்புறம் ஷேர் கொடுக்கணும். ஓகே,
வந்துருச்சு. அப்ப ஸ்கிரீன் வந்துருச்சு.
வந்துட்டு இருக்கு. இப்போ வந்து உங்க இதை பிரசன்ட் பண்ணுங்க, பிபிடி பிரசன்ட் பண்ணுங்க. வெரி குட், கரெக்டா இருக்கு.
வருதுல? அப்ப
வருது சார், அப்படியே வச்சுங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. ஏன்னா என்னோட ஸ்கிரீன்ல தெரியல, நான் அப்புறம் தான் நினைச்சேன் சரி அது வெளியே வந்தாலே தெரியும் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சேன்.
இல்ல, உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். நீங்க எப்படி பண்ணணும்னா, நீங்க வந்து பிரசன்டேஷன் உங்களுக்கு இருக்கும் பாருங்க, அதுக்காக பின் பண்ணீங்க. உங்க நேம் போட்டு பிரசன்டேஷன் இருக்கும், அதை பின் பண்ணீங்கன்னா நீங்க அதே கிளிக் பண்ணிட்டீங்க திருப்பி. சாரி,
இப்ப
அதல்ல சார், உங்க பிரசன்டேஷன் ரெண்டு இருக்கும் பாருங்க உங்க பேர்லயே.
ஆமா ஆமா, ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
ஒரு பிரசன்டேஷன் ஒன்னு இருக்கும், அதை வந்து பின் பண்ணணும். இப்ப நீங்க பண்றது அது கிடையாது. உங்க பிக்சரை பின் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. அப்ப நீங்க உங்க நேம்ல பிரசன்டேஷன் ஒன்னு இருக்கும்.
ஆனா ஸ்கிரீன் இப்படி ஆகுது.
உங்க நேம்ல ஒரு பிரசன்டேஷன், நீங்க அதே இதுல கிளிக் பண்றீங்க.
ஓகே.
நீங்க ஒண்ணு பண்ணலாம் சார், நீங்க உங்களுக்கு கரெக்டா வருது சார் எனக்கு. நீங்க பிரசன்ட் பண்ணுங்க, நீங்க பிரசன்ட் பண்ணுங்க. உங்க பிபிடி போடுங்க, உங்க பிபிடி போடுங்க. பெர்ஃபெக்ட்டா இருக்கு.
ஓகே தானே?
ஓகே, பெர்ஃபெக்ட்டா இருக்கு.
ஓகே 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 ஓகே.
சார் எக்ஸ்கியூஸ் மீ சார்,
பிபிடி வருதுல சார்?
வருது, பெர்ஃபெக்ட்டா இருக்கு சார்.
ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார்.
சார் எக்ஸ்கியூஸ் மீ சார், ஆரோக்கியராஜ் சார்.
சொல்லுங்க மேடம்.
சார் இந்த டெஸ்ட் அசைன்மென்ட் இந்த டீடைல் எல்லாம் சொல்லணும் அப்படின்ட்டு
கடைசியா போட்டுருவோம், நாங்க போட்டுருவோம், ஒன்றும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை.
அப்படி சொல்றேன்னு வரேன்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க, அதனால கேட்டேங்க சார்.
இல்ல மேடம், இப்ப வர நான் கொஞ்சம் நடுவுல வந்து சொன்னா நல்லா இருக்கும். ஒரு செஷன் முடிஞ்ச வரைக்கும், ஏன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆரம்பத்துல எல்லாரும் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க.
ஆமா ஆமா, ஓகே 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 ஓகே.
ரெண்டாவது அவர் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் செஷன் அங்க எம்சிஏ நடத்துறாரு.
சரிங்க சார்.
முடிச்சுட்டு வந்து ஒரு பாடு சொன்ன ஒரு பாடு நம்ம இந்த மாதிரி வெப்சைட்ல போட்டுருவோம், நீங்க பார்த்து அனுப்பிடுங்கன்னு சொல்லலாம்.
ஓகே சார், ஓகே 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 சார். செகண்ட் செஷன்ல பார்த்து. ஓகே சார்.
சார் இப்ப ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாமா சார்?
சார் என்னங்க சார்,
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாமா?
இன்னும் 2 நிமிஷம் 3 நிமிஷம் இருக்கு.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
அத பண்ணிட்டு பண்ணலாமே.
சரிங்க சார், சரிங்க சார், சரிங்க சார்.
எப்போ இருக்கான்னு பாருங்க லைவ்ல.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
சிபு சார் காலையில சார் பேசினாங்க, இந்த அசைன்மெண்ட் டெஸ்ட் அந்தந்த ஆர்பிட்ட வந்து கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர் வாங்கிருங்க, வாங்கி எலெக்டிவ் பேப்பருக்கும் வாங்கி ஆரோக்கியராஜ் சாருக்கு அனுப்பிட்டா அவர் வந்து வெப்சைட்ல போட்டுருவாரு. நம்ம டேட் வந்து 10ஆம் தேதி வரைக்கும் எலெக்டிவ் கிளாஸ் இருக்கு. 15ஆம் தேதிக்குள்ளார டெஸ்ட் மார்க் அசைன்மெண்ட் இதெல்லாம் சப்மிட் பண்ண சொல்லியிருக்காங்கல்ல. நம்ம 12ஆம் தேதி குடுக்கலாமா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கேட்டாங்க சாரு. அது நீங்க வாங்க சார், லைன்ல வாங்க, மத்த ஆர்பி சார்ட்டையும் கேட்டுக்கலாம் நம்ம அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. 10ஆம் தேதி வரைக்கும் இருக்கிறதுனால ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு முடியுமான்றது நம்ம யோசிக்கணும்ல சார். 15ஆம் தேதி பண்றது. ஒருவேளை உங்கள்கிட்ட சார் பேசினாங்கன்னா நீங்களும் இந்த இது சொல்லுங்க, நான் சொல்லியிருக்கேன். இப்ப உங்க செஷன் முடியும் போது வருவாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க, முடிச்சுட்டு. ஓகேங்க சார், ஓகேங்க சார். இப்போ நம்ம வாங்கணும்னா யார்ட்ட சார் வாங்கணும்? நீங்க அப்புறம் வேற யார்ட்ட சார் வாங்கணும்? ஆர்பிட்ட
என்கிட்ட வாங்கணும்.
பசுபதி சாரா?
பசுபதி வரமாட்டாரு. பசுபதி அவரு திருச்சி சென்டர். அவரு நம்மளுக்கு வந்து ராகினி மேடம், நீலா மேடம், அப்புறம் நானு, ராகினி மேடம், இவரு மைக்கேல், 4 பேர்த்த வாங்கணும்.
சரிங்க சார், சரிங்க சார்.
பிஷப் ஹெச்ஓடி மைக்கேல், ராகினி மேடம் பிஷப், அப்புறம் நீலா மேடம் இந்த காலேஜ், அவங்க 4 பேர்த்த வாங்கணும் மேடம்.
சரிங்க சார், சரிங்க சார்.
அவங்க 3 பிளஸ்
4. ராகினி மேடம் நம்பர் என்கிட்ட இருக்கு பர்சனலாவே. மைக்கேல் சாரும் நிலா மேடமும் இல்லைங்க சார்.
நான் உங்களுக்கு ஷேர் பண்ணிருப்பேன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். சரி, இந்த கிளாஸ் முடிச்சு ஷேர் பண்ணி விட்டுறேன்.
ஓகே, ஓகே. அதுல இருக்கு சார், இருக்கு. லாஸ்ட் டைம் அனுப்புனீங்க. இருக்கு.
ஆமா, உங்களுக்கு எல்லா ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சன் அனுப்புனேன். மெயில் ஐடி, ஃபோன், மொபைல் நம்பரோட.
இருக்கு சார். நான் அவங்கள்ட்ட பேசிறேன். சரிங்க சார். ஓகேங்க சார். ஆல் தி பெஸ்ட்ங்க சார். நீங்க பாத்து.
Thank you.
ஓகே சார். தேங்க் யூ.
சிவ சார், நீங்க ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாம்.
ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாம் சார்.
ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாம். 3 ஆச்சு. ஆரம்பிச்சிருங்க.
ஸ்கிரீன் தெரியுதுல சார்?
பெர்ஃபெக்ட்டா இருக்கு சார்.
ஓகே சார்.
Okay,
good morning students. Good morning students. I am Dr. Shibu NS, Head of Department of Management Studies, Government Arts and Science College, Perambalur. Formerly it was Bharadas University College. Today we are going to see about Unit 2. Now Unit 2 consists of definition of environment, characteristics of environment, what are the various methods of organization appraisal, what are the methods of other types of appraisal that we are going to see. So let us start with what is the definition of environment. Now, environment, it is an aggregate of all conditions, events and influences that surround and affect the organization. Now, in this definition, we are going to see, or there are 3 important terms in this definition. It is the aggregate of all conditions. The conditions here refer to the limitation factors in the environment that is affecting our business. Second definition, or the second term in the definition, is about events. The events here refer to happenings in the environment because of competitors, because of government, and because of interaction between various organizations. So this events is also affecting the environment. The third one is the influences. See, because of conditions and events that is happening in the organization and outside the organization, these conditions and events will influence changes in the environment. And these are the 3 important things, that are 3 important elements in the definition of environment. No. So that is about the definition of environment. So when we say definition of environment, it is an aggregate of all conditions, events and influence that surround and affect the organization. That is about the definition. The next one is the characteristics of environment. Now, when we say the characteristics of this environment, environment is always complex. Now, what do you mean by the term complex? Now, complex here refers to the organization's environment is highly difficult to study, or it is a black box of the organization. Now, why do we say it is complex? Because there are various factors affecting the organization. Like, for example, you have financial environment, you have government's environment, you have competitors' environment, you have suppliers' environment. All these will combinedly or jointly or standalone way they will affect the environment. That is why your environment is always considered to be a complex one. Second characteristics of environment says about your environment is always dynamic in nature. Now, what do you mean by the term dynamic here? The dynamic is at this stroke of movement, your environment is not the same at the next stroke of that time. Or what we mean to say is, what is the environment today will not be the environment tomorrow, or what is environment now will not be the environment tomorrow, because there are various factors affecting the environment. As we told in the definition itself, you have lot of other elements like financial environment, dynamic financial environment, competitive environment, suppliers environment. All these are going to affect your environment. That is why your environment is always changing in nature. That is why environment is always dynamic in nature. That is the second characteristics of environment. Now, third characteristic of environment is your environment is multifaceted in nature. Now, what do you mean by the term multifaceted? The multifaceted here refers to your environment has different phases in different times. At some point of time, you will find that the financial environment is highly influencing one. At some point of time, you will find that your competitors' environment is highly influencing you. That is why we mean to say it is a multifaceted one. The environment has different phases and it will show all these phases at different points of time. The fourth characteristics of environment, it is a far-reaching impact. Now, what do you mean by the term far-reaching environment? We see the effect of environment will have a far-reaching impact. Now, this far-reaching impact is it will affect all the strata of the environment. Like, for example, it will affect the top management, it will affect the lower level management, it will affect the middle level management, it will affect all the persons associated with the environment, right from your supplier till your customer. That is what we mean to say it has a far-reaching impact. So these are the four important characteristics of environment. Now the next topic in this environment is you have external and internal environment. Now, before going into this external and internal environment, let us look what it is. See, every organization has two different types of environment. One is an external one, another one is internal one. What is this external and internal environment? See, the external environment is an environment that is outside the organization or outside the boundary of the organization. An internal environment is an environment which is inside the boundary of the organization or which is within the organization. So what we mean here is when we say an internal environment, this internal environment can be controlled by the organization itself. What do you mean by this controlling the environment by the organization itself? Like for example, prices, like for example, the suppliers, like for example, the packaging, like for example, the other elements within the organization, like for example, the raw materials quality, all these can be controlled by the organization themselves. That is why it is called as an internal environment. Now, second one is the external environment. Now, the external environment is an environment which cannot be controlled by the organization themselves, or it is beyond the control of the organization. Now, when it is beyond the control of the organization has no other way to do just to face that external environment. Now, what are those external environments? Like, for example, competition, the economic policies of the government, your competitors' strategies. All these are the external environment which an organization cannot control, which can be just faced by the organization. So, wherever an organization is set to exist, these two environments are set to exist, and always there is an effect of external environment into an organization's internal environment. So always, and prices, competition, the government policies, all these things are external, and this will have an effect in the internal environment. So that is a small introduction about what is this internal and external environment. So the next one. The external environment of an organization includes all the factors outside the organization. The external environment include all the factors outside the organization, and these factors will provide opportunities and or it will pose threat to the organization. So what do you mean by this? The external environment will provide an opportunity for an organization to fight back, to win the competition, or it will also pose a threat to the organization, thereby it will lose the competition. Now, internal environment includes all the factors within the organization, and this internal environment will provide strength or it will cause weakness to the organization. We are going to see all these things one by one. So let us look at the next slide. Now, as we told in the previous slide, we have told about strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Now, let us look at the definition of all these things. First one is an opportunity. Now, opportunity, it is a favorable condition on organization's environment, which enables organization to consolidate and strengthen its position. Whenever there is an opportunity for an organization, it enables an organization to consolidate and strengthen its position in the market. Now, what do you mean by this consolidation and strengthening the position? For example, I give an example of an opportunity. Opportunity for an organization is, for example, your competitors' low R&D skills. Your competitors' low R&D skills is an opportunity for your organization to consolidate and strengthen your position if you have a good R&D lab for your organization. Now, that is an example, a good example of an opportunity. Now, second one is a threat. Now, threat is considered to be as an unfavorable condition which will create risk or cause damage to the organization. What do you mean by this unfavorable condition? This unfavorable condition is a condition which no organization prefers to have. Because of this unfavorable condition, it will create a risk or it will cause a damage to the organization. For example, your competitors' low cost of employee, that is considered to be as a threat for your organization if you have high cost of labor. That is the second one. The third one is the strength. The strength is considered to be as an inherent capacity. The term itself says it is an inherent capacity which organization can use to gain strategic advantages. For example, your superior R&D skills. So, next one is your weakness. It is an inherent limitation or constraints which creates strategic disadvantage. For example, the plant which is situated away from your customers. For example, you might have a production plant which is situated some few crores of kilometers away from your customers. No, some 1,000 kilometers away from your customers. So what happens here is the company has to spend on transportation of raw material, transportation of your finished goods to the nearest depot, which is away from your customer. So these are the four things that is primarily considered during the study of internal and external environment, which includes opportunity, threat, strength, and weakness. So when you develop a SWOT analysis, it helps in matching your strength and weakness inside the opportunities with the inside the organization with the opportunities and threat. Now, how do we match all these things? See, the strength is matched with the threat of the organization. Weakness is matched with the opportunity of the organization. So, one positive thing, like for example, strength is matched with the threat of the organization, threat which is a weakness of the threat which is a negative point of the organization. So, a positive aspect and a negative aspect is matched so that you will have an overall effect of positive. But I again repeat, there are certain things like, for example, inherent limitation, as I told just now. Whatever things that you try to match, your inherent weakness cannot be removed. That will be always there in your business. So next part of your environment is general environment and relevant environment. Now these two things or two elements of your environment are highly important one when you study your organization's internal and external. Now, what is this general environment? General environment includes all the factors of external environment, which includes international economy, national economy, local economy, technology, social changes, demographic variables, and political systems. Now, what does it mean? See, these are the environment which all the organizations are going to face. But these environment or these elements of environment or factors of environment will have a degree of impact in different organizations at different levels. The next line I go, what is the relevant environment? But the immediate concern of any organizations are confined to just a part of general environment, which is highly strategic relevance to the organization. I explain what is this. See, general environment is an environment that is affecting all the organization or that is part of an all organization. But what part of general environment is affecting your organization is varying from one organization to another organization. Like for example, your BSNL might have a general environment, your Reliance, your Geo might have a general environment, but what part of general environment is affecting your BSNL is different from what part of general environment is affecting your Geo. That part of an environment is known as a relevant environment. So each organization will have its own relevant environment, which is derived from the general environment. So general environment for every organization or all the organizations in an industry is same. But the relevant environment for each company or each organization varies, but it is drawn from general environment of an industry. So the next one is, what are those environmental factors that is affecting or environmental sectors that is affecting? See, there are 8 different environmental sectors. They are market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political environment, socio-cultural environment, and international sectors. We are going to look into one by one what it is. So I repeat, there are 8 different environmental sectors. They are market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political, socio-cultural, and international sectors. Let us look at one by one what it is. So the first one is your market environment. The market environment has 3 major factors affecting, like for example, customer factors. In customers factors, we have preferences, likings, dislikings, all these things of liking, disliking, preferences, all these things of customers will affect the market environment, or customers likes, dislikes will affect your customers, will affect the market environment. First one. Second one is your product factors. The second market environmental factor is your product factors. Factors of your product, like for example, the size of the product, color of the product, the packaging of the product, the attributes or the raw materials that you add for the product, all these things are the product factors which will affect the market. The third one is your competitor related factors. Now, what are these competitor related factors? Now, when we say the competitors related factors, it includes different types of competitors in the or existing in the market. Next one is the nature of competition that is existing in the market. Now, let us take up an example. See, in automobile industry, earlier it was the seller's market where customers have to wait for a long period of time. But now it has become the buyer's market where companies resort to various sales promotions and technology to promote and sell their unsold goods. To make this example still more clearer, see, when Bajaj introduced its scooter into the market, customers have to wait for long months. It may go to years also. But over a period of time, this gradually changed into buyer's market where customer doesn't have to wait. They can just step into the dealer's showroom, pay across the table, take their product away from the showroom. Now, this is a critical or good example of a competitor related market, right? Competitor related factor. Now, the next one is about the next factor or the next environmental element is about the technological environment. See, all the factors related to knowledge is applied, and materials used in this consists of factors that are related to knowledge applied and materials used in the production. Like for example, rising fuel prices. Because of increase in prices of fuel, companies and customers run towards taking up a fuel economy vehicles, or they look for fuel economy vehicles. So companies have to shift their technology towards development of vehicles which consumes low fuel. So what happens here is companies are more oriented towards technology for producing or for giving a fuel economy vehicle for customers. Let us look at the next one. The third environmental sector is the supplier environment. The supplier environment consists of various factors like continuous availability and supply of raw materials and cost associated with it. Continuous availability and supply of finance. Continuous availability and supply of energy. Like for example, I'll explain the supplier environment with an example. See, the road transport is considered to be as one of the important factor in developing that economy. The problems faced by these sectors are loss owing to high tax on vehicles, tires, diesels, spare parts, poor condition of the roads, fuel wastage due to bad conditions of the road. All these plays an important environment in the suppliers side. Right? That is about the third one. Now the fourth one is about economic environment. The economic environment consists of four important elements. It consists of the economic system in the country. This is self-explanatory. What is this economic system in the country? Second one is the economic planning. The economic planning consists of, for example, earlier we had 5-year plan, 10-year plans of the organization. Now it has been shifted, or now it has been removed, and we have a new economic planning system like Niti Aayog in our country. The third one is the economic policies of the country. Country's economic policies will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Like for example, various sectors, like for example your telecom sectors, like for example your infrastructure sectors, all these sectors, your economic policies can be, for example, 49% your local person or an Indian origin, 51% a foreign origin. All these things are affecting the economic environment of the organization. Now, the fourth one is the economic indices. The economic indices of the country will have a major impact in the economic environment. Now, what are these economic indices? Like, for example, GDP, like, for example, the purchasing power. All these things are economic indices which will have an effect in the economic environment. And the last element of your economic environment is your infrastructure. Now, when you have a good infrastructure, it will have a direct impact in the economic environment. Like for example, good roads, good water supply, good electricity, good transportation facilities. All these things are having an effect in the economic environment of the country. Now, next one is about the regulatory environments. Now, regulatory environments are law related to the country which will have an effect in the environment. Now, what are these law related ones? The first one is countries' own regulations. Second one is international regulations. Third one is local policies. Fourth one is regulations related to licensing, imports and exports, patent trade markets, etc. Now, what is this? First one is about countries' own regulations. Our country will have our own regulatory regulations. Like for example, you cannot run your business on Sundays. After end of every 5 days, you should shut down your business for a holiday for 1 day. All these things are our country's own regulations. Now, international regulations. International regulations are regulations which is prevalent in most of the countries, which is considered to be as uniform regulations. Third one is the local policies. Like for example, you have to pay your local taxes. Like for example, you have to pay your panchayat taxes. All these things are considered to be as the local policies. which is related to the regulations. The fourth one is the regulations related to licensing. Each country will have their own licensing systems. Each country will have their own import and export policies, and they have their own patent and trade, and finally the markets. All these will be in line with the international regulations of the international regulations that is available in the globe. Now, the next regulation, next environmental sector that we have is the political environment. Now, the political environment is said to be as the various environments or various factors that we have here is the political system existing in the country. Next one is the political processes and philosophy, and the next one is center-state relations. Now, under political environment, we have the political system that we have in the country. This will have an effect in the environmental sectors of the organization. The second one is the political processes and their philosophy. Each political parties will have their own processes, so they have their own philosophies. Because of these political processes and philosophy, it will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Now, some political parties will have an effect. Some political parties will have a philosophy of open markets. Some political parties will have a philosophy of having a restricted markets. This will have an effect in the environment. The third one is your center-state relationship. Center and state will have a major impact in the environmental sector. Each state will have their own rules and regulations in relation with the center. So this is how this political environment will affect your environmental sectors. See, the next one is your socio-cultural environment. Now, socio-cultural environment include demographic factors, your social customs, beliefs, attitudes, lifestyle habits, family structure, and work ethics. Now, what is the socio-cultural environment? Each country or each region will have its own demographic factors. It will have its own social customs. It will have its own beliefs. It will have its own people of particular region will have their own attitudes. People at their own regions will have different lifestyle habits. People at different countries will have their own different family structure and their own different work ethics. All these will have an impact in the environmental sectors of the organization. Finally, the last environmental sector that we have is international sectors. Now, international sectors here refer to trend in the global trade, global financial system, global demographic patterns, global information systems, regional economic blocks, and direction of globalization. All these are considered to be as an international sector that is affecting your environment. So to sum up, we have seen 8 different environmental sectors or environmental factors or environmental sectors that is affecting your business, which includes that we have seen just now: market environment, technological environment, supplier environment, economic environment, regulatory environment, political environment, socio-cultural environment, and finally international sectors. So these are the 8 different environmental sectors that we have seen just now. Let us look at the next topic. So we have studied about the various environments that is affecting our business. So the next topic we are going to see is about environmental scanning, or how do we scan our environment. Now, let us look at what is this environmental scanning. It is a process by which organizations monitor their relevant environment to identify opportunities and threats affecting their business. See, there are 4 major terms in this environmental scan. First one is organizations monitor. So what happens here is there is a continuous watch of the environment by the organization. That is what we mean here, monitoring. What do these organizations monitor? Monitor their relevant environment. See, in the previous 2-3 slides before, I told general environment and relevant environment. That is the point here. They will monitor their relevant environment. What for? To identify their opportunities and threats. So environmental scanning in short or In layman's language, we say that organizations are monitoring the relevant environment to identify wherever opportunities exist and to face the threat if an organization is having. So that is about the definition of environmental scanning. The next one is when you go for environmental scanning, you have to look into what are the factors for this environmental scanning. That is your next topic. What are the factors to be considered for environmental scanning? See, there are 4 major factors to be considered during environmental scanning. These are events, trends, issues, and expectations. Now, what is this? Events, trends, issues, and expectations. Now, let us look what is this event. Now, events are important and specific occurrences taking place in different sectors. I'll explain all the 4 factors with an example. So, first we'll see what it is, then we'll go for an example. So, these are events are important and specific occurrences which are taking place in different sectors. Next one is a trend. Trends are general tendencies or course of action along with the events that take place. Now, third one is the issues, which is these are considered to be as current concerns that arise in response to events and trends. Last one is the expectations. Expectations are demands made by interest group in light of these trends. See, these 4 factors are one-to-one related. Every event will lead to a trend. Every trend will lead to an issue. Every issue will lead to an expectations. So this is how these factors are considered during environmental scanning. Now let us take up an example. Now, everybody have heard about this Bhopal gas tragedy. It has took place in the year of 1984 in Bhopal. I am taking that example to explain this factors affecting environmental scanning. See, everybody know that the accident that took place in Bhopal is an event. Because of that event, the trend is that, or the general tendency is that, on the part, general tendency is to be very conscious about being safety from various hazards. Now, because of this trend of being conscious about safety from hazards, it leads to various issues. Issues like environmental pollution. That is an issue because of that Bhopal gas tragedy. Now, because of this issue, it leads to expectations. Expectations are made by general public that government should be more vigilant and tighten its rules and regulations whenever such companies are given licenses. So to sum up this example, Bhopal gas tragedy has happened is an event. Because of that event, the trend is the government should be very conscious in being highly safety precautions and safety regulations about hazardous industries. Now, because of that particular trend, issues are, or because of that particular trend and events, the issues are the environmental issues or environmental pollutions. Because of this event, trends and issues, the expectation from the general public was that the government should be very vigilant and it should bring in strict, or it should impose strict rules and regulations whenever such type of industries are being given license. So that is about your events, trends, issues and expectations. Now let us look at the various approaches to environmental scanning. Now there are 3 different approaches towards environmental scanning. They are systematic approach, ad hoc approach and process to form approach. Now what is this systematic approach? See, in this approach, information for environmental scanning is collected very systematically. So what do you mean by this? Information related to organization's business, information related to government policies, information related to market and customers, information related to changes in legislations and regulations. All these information that are collected is said to be as a very systematic approach. Now, when we say a systematic approach, what does an organization do? Organization will very systematically, or it will always look into information related to organization's business. It will be very vigilant in collecting information related to government policies. It will be very systematically collecting information related to market and customers. That is why this approach is considered to be as a systematic approach. Now, second approach that we have here is an ad hoc approach. Now, what do you mean by this ad hoc approach? Now, ad hoc approach is, in this approach, organizations conduct special surveys and studies to deal with specific environmental issues. Now, what does it mean here? See, apart from collecting or apart from having a systematic approach, or apart from organization going through a systematic approach, organizations will conduct very special surveys and studies to deal with certain specific environmental issues. Our organization will carry out specific studies and surveys to tackle or to study or to deal with specific environmental issues. The third type of approach that we have is a processed form approach. See, in this approach, organization uses information in a processed form available from different sources, which is available from both inside and outside the organization. Or organization will use the information which is available from different sources, like for example, organizations, newsletters, international research organization publishing various information, your World Health Organization publishing reports, your defense forces publishing information, your organization, Niti Aayog's study reports. All these things are considered to be as a processed form information that is available for the organization for an environmental scanning. So to sum up, what we have seen in approaches to environmental scanning is you have three different approach: systematic approach, ad hoc approach, and processed form approach. Now let us look at the next one. What are the sources of information for this environmental scanning, or the various sources of information that we have for environmental scanning are, you have 6 different sources. The first one is your secondary sources. The secondary sources include publications like newspapers, magazines, newsletters, trade and industry association newsletters. All these are considered to be as a secondary sources. These things are self-explanatory. The second one is your mass media. Mass medias include radio, televisions, and internet. Or these sources are considered to be as the sources that you take up for information for your information scanning. The next one is your external sources. Sorry. The external sources include customers, suppliers, government agencies, and trade associations. Now, all these are no way related to your organization. Like your customers who are indirectly related, suppliers who are indirectly related, or who are not in relation with your organization. What I mean here is they are not part of your organization, but they are in direct relation to your organization. So these are considered to be as an external sources for your information for scanning. Next one is your internal sources. The internal sources include company files and documents, management information systems, databases, and company employees. Now, what is it? What is this internal source? Companies will carry out various studies, or companies might have carried out various researchers to find out what is happening in the environment. All these are considered to be as your company files and documents. Your management MIS of your organization, your databases, DBs of your organization, and your company employees. All these are considered to be as your internal sources. Next one is your formal studies. Or formal studies are those which are conducted by employees themselves under the guidance of your management, market research agencies for studies. These are the formal studies that is being taken up. And the last one is spying and surveillance. This is an interesting one. Spying and surveillance of competitors' organizations by using ex-employees. Or what we do is we spy and surveillance of your competitors' business by using their ex-employees. So these are the 6 different sources of information that we take for information scanning. So what are the sources that we have seen just now is internal and external sources, secondary sources, internal and external sources, secondary sources, mass media, formal studies, spying and surveillance. Next one is what are the various methods and techniques used for environmental scanning? See, there are 9 such methods that we take up for studies. These are simple variable extrapolation, theoretical limit analysis, dynamic modes, mapping, multivariable interaction analysis, unstructured expert opinion, unstructured unexpert opinion, structured expert opinion, structured unexpert opinion, speculations. So these are the various techniques that is used for environmental scanning. We look into one by one what it is. First one is simple variable extrapolation. See, all these things are beyond the things that we done. All these are considered more of mathematical and economic one, but still we should have a general idea of what it is. The first one is simple variable extrapolation. In simple variable extrapolation is we take up one simple variable, we try to extrapolate beyond the time, beyond the limit. The next one is theoretical limit analysis. We try to find out what is the limit within which one variable will give a proper result. Third one is the dynamic modes. What are the various dynamic modes that we have during environmental scanning? Fourth one is your mapping. And the last one is multivariable interaction analysis. And the next one is unstructured expert opinion. Structured, all these are self-explanatory. Structured unexpert opinion, structured expert opinion, structured unexpert opinion, and finally speculations. Now, the speculations, under speculations, we follow a model known as QUEST, or we call it as a quick environmental scanning analysis, or we call it as a QUEST analysis. Now, this is a very popular one. So these are the various methods and techniques used for environmental scanning. Next one, organizational analysis. Till now we have previous slide we have seen about your environmental analysis. So from this slide onwards, we are going to see about organizational analysis. Now, organizational analysis is primarily done to identify the organization's strength and weakness. Now, organization analysis is otherwise called as an internal environmental analysis. Now, this organization analysis refers to all the factors within the organization. I repeat the word, it is factors which is within the organization that influence its capacity to achieve its strategic intent. So, all the factors which is affecting the organization to reach its strategic intent. That is what we mean to say as an organizational analysis. Now, what is the strategic intent? We have seen in the previous class. Now next point in your organizational analysis is this is primarily done to determine the capabilities of the organization, or what is the maximum capabilities that an organization can go. This is what we do in your internal environmental analysis. So to sum up, your organization analysis is primarily done to identify the capabilities of your strengths and weaknesses within the organization. Next one is what is the process of organizational analysis? See, there are various steps associated with the process of organizational analysis, or organizational analysis can be carried out by using these 5 such different steps. The step 1 is identify the key factors. The organization will have various key factors, but the major key factors during organization analysis include organization structure, organization's management pattern, personnel, finance, marketing, and manufacturing. These are considered to be as the key factors for an organizational analysis. Now, assessing the importance, second step says assessing the importance of these factors. See, in the previous step, we have told some 6 major key factors. Now, in this step, what we are saying is we are going to assess the importance of these factors. Now, all the factors that we have identified in the step 1 are not important. And those factors which contribute towards achievement of results are only taken into consideration. Like, for example, for some organization, personnel might be considered to be as an important factor which help in achieving the results. Some other organizations, like for example, a manufacturing organization, for them, manufacturing is considered to be as an important factor towards achieving the results. Like for example, an after-sales service organization, for them, sales is considered to be as an important factor towards achieving the results. So from organization to organization, these important factors vary. That is why we mean to say we assess the importance of factors. By assessing the importance of factors, we land up with major factors only. The third step is evaluating the strength and weakness of key factors. Now, what does it mean here? Evaluating the strength and weaknesses of factors that we have identified in step 2. Like, for example, as I told you just now, under marketing, we said sales, for if it is a sales organization, we said after sales service is an important factor. Now, in the third step, it says if a factor is making a positive contribution towards achievement of objectives, then that strength is considered to be as a key factor. So what we mean here is, if the key factor that you identified under step 2 is giving any positive contribution towards achievement of objectives, then we say that that is considered to be as a strength. Now, if a factor that you identified under step 2 is making a negative contribution towards achievement of objective, then that is considered to be as a weakness of a key factor. So what we mean to say is, having identified the factor under step 2, we go further to find out whether those factor is making any positive contribution or whether it is making any negative contribution. If it is making a positive contribution, then we mean to say that is the strength. If it is making a negative contribution, then we mean to say that is the weakness of a key factor. That is step 3. Now, step 4 says preparing organization capability profile, or we mean to say OCP. After analyzing or after identifying the key factors and analyzing whether it is giving positive or negative impact, then we prepare your organization capability profile. Based on strength and weaknesses of identified factors, we go for preparing OCP, or we mean to say organization capability profile. Next step is relating organization's capability profile to strategy. So what we have done here is we have identified various capability profiles, and these capability profiles are related to strategy. Now, how it is related? We have identified that certain factors are strengths and certain factors are weakness. These strengths are related to a strategy because it is having a direct impact in the strategy. But there are certain factors we have identified that it is weakness. So what we do here is we try to convert those weaknesses into positive by relating it to another positive one. So that is what we mean here in this one. So what we do here in this final step is we relate your organization capability profile to a strategy. Next topic that you are going to see is how do we develop the strategic advantage, or how do we develop competitive advantage for your organization. Now, developing strategic advantage or developing competitive advantage goes into studying organization's resources, organization's strength and weakness, organization's synergistic effect, organization's behavior, competencies and capabilities. Or when you study your organization's resources, when you study your organization's behavior, when you study the synergistic effect, when you study competencies and when you study capabilities, through that you will be able to identify your competitive advantage or strategic advantage. Now let us look into one by one what it is. So the first one is your organization's resources. Now organization's resources are tangible and intangible ones. Now those organizations which possess a superior resource and which can produce more effectively, leading to strategic advantage, then we mean to say that is developing your strategic advantage. For example, an organization which possesses resource of high quality, organization which possess a resource of low cost or an adequacy of resources have a strategic advantage in comparison to your competitor. So what we mean is your organization resource can develop a strategic advantage over your competitor if an organization resource is of high quality, low cost and adequacy of resource. That is the first point. The second one is your organization's behavior. The OB refers to manifestations of various forces and influences operating within the organization. The term itself says there are various forces and influences operating inside the organization. These forces and influences are organization's climate and culture, organization politics, and organization power. All these shape your organization's behavior. Like for example, the culture of the organization determine whether your organization has a strategic advantage over your competitors. Next one, your organization's politics and power determine whether your organization has a strategic advantage over your competitors. Your organization's climate will determine whether you have a competitive advantage over your competitors. That is about the second one. The third one is your strength and weakness. As we have seen previously, strengths are inherent capability which organization can use to gain strategic advantage over your competitors. Now, weakness is an inherent limitation which creates a strategic disadvantage for your organization. So, under this competitive or under the strategic advantage, your strength is considered to be as can be used to gain strategic advantage. Weakness can be or weakness creates a strategic disadvantage. Examples include low cost of capital. This is considered to be as a strength for your organization. Second example is your inexperienced management, which creates weakness for your organization. So, under strength and weakness, sometimes your organization has a low cost of capital, which can be used as a strategic advantage over your competitors. Now, if an organization has an inexperienced management, that is considered to be as a strategic disadvantage for your organization. That is the third one. Now, the fourth one is your synergistic effect. Now, the term synergistic effect itself says 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, or it is not 2, but it gives a combined effect which is more than the individual effect. That is what we mean to say as a synergistic effect. Or synergistic effect says a combined effect of two elements will give an added effect when these two elements act separately. That is what we mean to say 1 plus 1 is equal to 3 and not 2. For example, when a marketing department and production department support each other, then we mean to say there is an operating synergy existing in these departments. I'll give an example. Consider that a marketing department is developing a product. A production department is carrying out a production process for a product, or it is going for a dry production process. It produces some product and it hands over to the marketing department to get a feedback from the market. So, production department is in relation or in support of the marketing department to get a feedback from the market about the product that is produced by the production department. So, what we mean to say here is there is a synergistic effect existing between these two departments. Wherever and whenever an organization has a synergistic departments or synergistic effect in an organization, then that is considered to be as a strategic competitive advantage for an organization. That is the third one. The fourth one is competencies. The competencies are unique quality that enables an organization to withstand competitive pressures in the market. So what we mean is this is a unique quality which helps an organization to withstand a competitive pressure or competition in the market. That is considered to be as a competencies. So there are two such competencies. Let us take up the first one, core competency. Now, core competency is an enduring strength that makes significant contribution to end product for customers, provides potential access to wide variety of markets, and it is difficult to imitate. So the core competencies has three characteristics. It is make or those competencies should make a significant contribution for a customer in its end product. It should have potential access to wide variety of markets, and it is very difficult to imitate. These three, when an organization has these three, then we mean to say that is a core competency. For example, your Honda Motors. Honda Motors core competency is the best auto engine that it is having. And your Sony Corporation. Next example is the Sony Corporation, which core competency is producing miniature products. That is the first one. Now, the second competency that we have is a distinctive competence. Now, distinctive competence is a unique capability that an organization possesses exclusively over its competitors. Now, what we mean is it is a unique capability that an organization possesses, which no other competitor is having. For example, I have written wrong. It is not low cost production. It is a low cost production. Next one is ability to mobilize huge resources. So low cost production is considered to be as a distinctive competence of an organization in relation to competitor, and ability to mobilize huge resources is again a distinctive competence which no other organization can possess. So that is about the distinctive competence. The next capability that we have in our organization is our organizational capability. Now, organizational capability is an inherent capacity or the potential to use its strength over weakness, thereby face threats in the internal environment. So what we mean here is this organizational capability is a point where organization can use its strength to overcome its weakness, as we have seen in the SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, SWOT analysis. What we have seen is organization capability is a process whereby organization can use its strength to overcome weakness, and using that they can face their threat in the external environment. That is what we mean in organizational capability. So to sum up, the strategic advantage cannot be achieved merely by having some capability. It is important how this capability is used. So I repeat again, strategic advantage cannot be achieved merely by having some capability, but it says how this capability is used. I'll give a good, interesting example. See, Raymond's is considered to be as a strong in textile business. So in the year of mid of 80s, what Raymond's did was it entered into cement business. It faced a heavy loss in cement business. It exited from the cement business. I repeat again, it is strong in textiles. It entered into cement business. It made a huge loss. It exited from the business. The example, through this example, what we can understand is the company Raymond's had a strategic advantage in terms of textiles, but it did not know how this capability can be used. So what it did was it entered into cement business. It made a loss there. So to sum up, strategic advantage is merely not having a capability, but how do we use them? Your next one is, what are the methods and techniques of organizational analysis? See, there are 4 different methods and techniques of organizational analysis. First one is your internal analysis. Next one is your comparative analysis. Third one is your comprehensive analysis, and last one is your SWOT analysis. Now, under internal analysis, we have three different methods or techniques. We have BRIO, Brew Model Analysis, Value Analysis Method. Third one is your quantitative analysis. Under quantitative analysis, we have financial analysis and non-financial analysis. So we look into one by one what it is. So let us start with what is this internal analysis. Internal analysis, first method that we go for BRIO analysis. BRIO. B refers to value, valuable. R refers to rare. I refers to imitable. O refers to organized for use. This is what we mean to say as BRIO analysis. Now let us look what is this BRIO. First, B refers to valuable. Now, valuable are considered to be as capabilities that enable the organization to generate revenues by capitalizing on opportunities or to reduce cost by neutralizing threat. For example, the ability to produce high quality after sales service. Now, what we mean here is it is a capability to enable the organization to generate resources by capitalizing on opportunities, thereby neutralizing threat. Here in this example, organization's capability is providing high quality after sales service. That is what we consider to be as a valuable one. Second one is a rare one. Rare here refers to capabilities that one or few firms in the industry exclusively possess. Like for example, highly motivated workforce of Honda Motors, or highly motivated workforce of different organizations. That is the first example. Second example is capability of Honda Motors to build high quality cars at relatively low cost. So these are considered to be as a rare capabilities of an organization. So this rare example is highly motivated workforce, Honda Motors capability to build in high quality cars at relatively low cost. Third internal analysis BRIO is I. It says about imitable. These are capabilities which competitors cannot duplicate. Even though they go for a duplicate, it is only at high cost. For example, excellent corporate image that organizations have. These corporate image is considered to be as a non-imitable one, or which cannot be duplicated. Still, if an organization goes for duplication, then it will be at their high cost. That is about imitable. The fourth one is your organized for use. Now, organized for use these are capabilities which an organization can use through its appropriate structure, business process, control and reward system. Or what we mean to say is organized for use has four different things: appropriate organization structure, appropriate process, control and reward system. All these are considered to be as the usage also. For example, the ability of your competent R&D personnel and your research lab to bring innovative products. See, there are two things here. You have your competent R&D lab. You have your competent research personnel. These two things, because of usage of these two important things, we can bring in innovative products. That is about the organized for use. That is about the BRIO. The second one is your value chain analysis. This is an interesting one. This value chain analysis is developed by Porter's value chain analysis, or it is famously known as Porter's value chain analysis. Now, this value chain analysis is used to measure how each activity in your chain of production or in your chain of service is creating value to the customer. This is known as a value chain analysis. So, each activity in your production process or in your service process should create some value to your customer. Now, that process is known as your value chain analysis process. Now, value chain analysis process has primarily two different activities. First activity is your primary activity, And your second activity is your support activity. Now, let us look at what is this primary activity. Now, primary activities are those activities which is related to creation of a particular product or service. Now, under primary activity, you have four different things. It includes inbound logistics. What is this inbound logistics? Inbound logistics include receiving, storing, transportation, and inputs of production process. Now, it includes receiving of your raw materials, storing raw materials, transporting the raw materials for your production process. These three things are considered to be as an inbound logistics. Now, what does value chain analysis say here? When you receive your product, or when you store your product, or when you transport your production inputs for your production process, there should be value addition in all these processes. How do we add value to the products? Or how do we add value to receiving? How do we add value to storing? How do we add value to transporting is what we mean to say as a value chain analysis. Second thing under your primary activity is your operations. All the activities involved in transformation of your production process. Now, what we mean here is conversion of your raw material into your finished products is known as your operations. Now, what are various things that you can add into your conversion process so that you can add value to your product? That is what we do here. Third one is your outbound logistics. Now, outbound logistics include all the activities used to receive, store, and transport finished products. See, you receive your finished products, you store your finished products, and you transport your finished product. All these are considered to be as outbound logistics. What value you are adding to all these things? Or how can you add value to all these things? That is what we mean here. And your next one is your marketing and sales. All activities used to market and sell products to customers. Like, for example, you can go in for good advertising strategies, you can go in for good add-ons, selling of products. All these things are considered to be as all the activities that you can use. And your last one in your primary activity is your service. All activities used to enhance and maintain a product's value. Enhancing and maintaining the product's value is considered to be as your service. Now, these four things are considered to be as a primary activity. See, inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. These five things are considered to be as a primary activities. For this primary activity, or to run successfully your primary activity, you need support activities. Now, support activities are those activities which provide support to primary activities. Primary activities are the five things that we have seen just now cannot be done successfully without this support activity. Support activities have four different sub-activities. First one is your firm's infrastructure. Firm's infrastructure includes accounting, finance, and legal. Second one is your human resource management. This includes recruitment, selection, and training. Next one is your technology development. This includes R&D, product design, and equipment design. And your last one is procurement. It says about obtaining raw materials, parts, supplies, machinery, and equipment. See, what we mean to say here is this: your accounting, your recruitment, your R&D, and your raw materials. All these things are the activities which take place at the back end of your primary activity. So all these cannot be seen in a very blunt way, but this will aid your primary activity in your value chain analysis. The second thing that we have here is your quantitative analysis. So in this quantitative analysis, we have two important things. One is your primary activity. One is your financial analysis. Second one is your non-financial analysis. Under financial analysis, we have first one, ratio analysis. So ratio analysis, we have four different ratios. We have liquidity, profitability, leverage, and the other activity ratios. So this is considered to be as an important analysis, but this also has certain restrictions. Now we have some 23 different formulas under ratio analysis. Through that, you will be able to identify all these things. Second one is your economic value added analysis. Under economic value added analysis, this measures the profitability in terms of return on capital over and above the cost of servicing the capital employed. So what we mean to say here is it measures the profitability in terms of return of capital over the cost of servicing the capital. For example, your cost of capital can be, for example, at 8%. Over and above the 8%, what is the returns that you have gained? That is known as an economic value added one. That is what we mean to say as economic value added analysis. Third one is your activity based costing analysis. It is otherwise known as an ABC analysis. This helps to measure the cost of each activity in the value chain. Previously that you have seen, no, various activities that you have, primary activity, secondary activity. For all these things, what is the cost of each activity in your value chain? This helps in identifying whether particular activity can be added or particular activity cost can be brought down, or whether any particular activity can be replaced by another activity whereby the cost can be brought down. Such analysis is known as an activity-based costing. The second type of this one is your qualitative analysis. Under qualitative analysis, we have, it includes corporate image, corporate culture, and employee morale. So what do you mean this? What do you mean by this? See, under qualitative analysis, you will be able to identify your organization's this one, or you will be able to identify, or you will be able to analyze your organization based on your employee morals. You will be able to identify or analyze your organization based on your corporate cultures that organizations follow. Right? That is about your qualitative analysis. Next one is your comparative analysis. Under comparative analysis, we have two important analyses. First one is the historical analysis. This is very important one, even though this looks very old one, but this is considered to be as a very important analysis. What we do under historical analysis is we go in for organization strengths and weaknesses in comparison with the organization itself over a period of time. For example, we try to compare the strengths of the organization and weakness of the organization under different time periods. For example, 5 years from now, or previously 5 years, 2015 to 20, 2010 to 15, what were our strengths and weaknesses? From 2015 to 20, what were our strengths and weaknesses? Whether the strengths of an organization has improved or whether the strengths of the organization has declined. All these things helps to go for an organizational analysis. Next one is your industry norms. Each industry has certain norms and standards for key parameters of performance. The performance level of the firm can be compared with the norms of the industry. For example, cost level of production cost levels. What I mean here is the production cost levels of Hyundai can be compared against the cost standards in the car industry. Car industries have their own standards. Hyundai can compare its cost level with this cost levels, whether this is a strength for them or whether this has become a weakness for them or whether they have exceeded their standards in relation with the industry standards or whether they are nearing to the industry standards can be done here. Next one is your non-financial analysis. Now, under non-financial analysis, this includes employee absenteeism and turnover, advertising recall rate, production cycle time, service call rate, and also we have inventory turnover rate. Now, all these things refer to a non-financial one. Let us look one by one what it is. The first one is your employee absenteeism. Now, under employee absenteeism, it says the rate at which an employee is leaving the organization, rate at which an employee is, number of employees leaving the organization. All these things will affect an organization's analysis. Second one, what is your advertising recall rate? How many advertisements you have posted in the, how many advertisements you have released and what is your recall rate of these things? All these things it will have an effect in the organization's analysis. Next one is your production cycle time. Whether your production cycle time has increased over a period of time or it has gone down. That is about your non-financial analysis. The next one is your benchmarking. Now, under this benchmarking, we have some three different benchmarkings. Let us look one by one what it is. So the first one is benchmarking. What do you mean by the term benchmarking? It is a reference point for measurement and comparison. Now, what you do in benchmarking? It is a process of identifying, understanding, and adapting outstanding practices from within the same industry to help to improve the performance. So what we do here is we are comparing the processes of our company with the industry practices. Like for example, what you do is you identify, understand, and adapt those outstanding practices of the industry so that you will become the industry's benchmarking. See, there are various types of benchmarking for different industries. Now, again, we mean to say a benchmarking is it is a reference point of comparison. Organizations of same industry will compare their own practices, will compare their own performances, will compare their own best methods in relation to the industry. That is what we mean to say here as a benchmarking. See, there are first type of benchmarking is performance benchmarking. Under performance benchmarking, what we do is we compare one organization's performance with the industry's best performance. For example, Hyundai will compare its performance with the best performance of the industry. For example, Maruti, or for example, your Honda. That is what we mean to say as a performance benchmarking. This performance can be in terms of sales. This performance can be in terms of production cost. This performance can be in terms of after-sale services. This performance can be in terms of the other factors. So performance benchmarking is the first one. Next one is your process benchmarking. Under process benchmarking, what we do is we compare one best methods and practices that an organization is following with the industry's best practices. So what we do is we compare the methods and practices of, for example, Hyundai will compare the methods and practices that it is following with the benchmarked one. For example, the benchmarked best and practices can be, for example, Maruti Suzuki's one. So what Hyundai can do here is they can compare the methods and practices that it is following with the benchmarked practice of Maruti Suzuki. That is known as a process benchmarking. The third one is your strategic benchmarking. Under strategic benchmarking, what you do is we compare one's strength with the industry's best one. So what we do here is we compare the organization's strength with the industry's best strength. So this can be, for example, low cost capital that we get. Under low cost capital, whether the cost of capital that we have received is in reference with the benchmarked cost of capital is what we do here, right? Now the next type of this one that we have is in terms of next one that we have is in terms of the strategic advantages that we have, and the next one is that we have is comparative analysis. Comprehensive analysis. Under comprehensive analysis, what we have here is key factor analysis. Now, under key factor analysis, the first thing that we have is we try to identify the key factors that an organization has. Or what we do here is we identify the key factors. For example, the cost of production, the production time that we take, the materials resources planning that we have, all these are considered to be as a key factor. We go in to find out whether the key factors can be the best one in the organization. So first thing that we go in for this one is your key factor analysis. Under key factor analysis, factors which are having a positive impact for an organization. For example, sound capital structure. All these are considered to be as an important positive impact for the organization. First one is your key factor rating. Under key factor rating, this gives a holistic view of your performance of an organization. That is the first one. The next thing that we are going to do in this comprehensive analysis is your balanced scorecard. Balanced scorecard method is a comprehensive method of analyzing an organization's strengths and weaknesses. There are 4 key performance indicators in your balanced scorecard. The 4 performance indicators are financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business process perspective, and finally the learning and innovative perspective. Now let us look into one by one what it is. The first one is your financial perspective under balanced scorecard. Now financial perspective says, how do shareholders look at our company? That is the financial perspective. Next one is your customers perspective. How do customers view our company, or how do customers see our company? Third one is your internal business process perspective. Where does our company excel, or where we must excel in business? That is the third one. Fourth one is your learning and innovative perspective. Under learning and innovative perspective, it says, can we improve and create more value to our customers? So these are the 4 key performance measures that can be identified in your balanced scorecard. That is these are the 4 important things. And the last one is about SWOT analysis. Under SWOT analysis, S stands for strength, W stands for weakness, O stands for opportunity, and T stands for threat, that you have seen in the beginning of this session itself. Now, strength is a competence with an organization which enables an organization to gain an advantage over a competitors. Now, this is the 4 definitions that you have seen already. Now, let us look at what are the various strengths of the organization. What can be various strengths of the organization? The strengths of an organization can be good corporate image, favorable location of your plant, wide distribution network, good or ample reserves and surpluses that you have, and your ISO certifications for your organizations. That can be strength of your organizations. Next one, the various weaknesses that an organization can possess can be inexperienced management, that I told in the previously itself the example. High cost of production, high prices, poor relationship with bankers and financial institutions. These can be the weakness. So it can be inexperienced management, high cost of production, high prices, poor relationship with banks and financial institutions. This can be your weaknesses. Next one is your opportunities. What are your opportunities, or what can be opportunities for your business? This can be liberal government policies, existence of niche markets, reliable foreign partners, and increased education level of your customers. This can be opportunities. And finally, the threat. The threat can be intense competition from your competitors, political instability in the countries that you are operating your business, stagnant demand for your products in the market, rising customer expectations from your products. So these can be all your threats for your organization. Now, what are the various advantages of having this SWOT analysis? It is simple and it is inexpensive. Now, another important advantage that it has, it gives a complete picture of your organization. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? It gives a complete picture of your organization. It is highly flexible and it can be used in a small size organization, mid-size organization, and in large corporations also. Finally, it is the basis for strategic analysis. Now, with this, we come to an end of your organization analysis and appraisal. So, to sum up, what we have seen is we have gone into two important things: organization's appraisal and environment, organization appraisal and analysis, environmental appraisal and analysis. So, we have done internal analysis and external analysis of your business. With this, we come to an end of your unit 1. In the next session, we will go for unit 3 and 4. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Oh, good morning, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
Good morning, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Welcome,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, thanks. Yes.
Carry on, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir. Sir, audible, sir?
Yes, audible, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning, students. This is second session. Already we are covered from the first session. Almost nearly 1.5 minutes already covered. Actually, already we are covered the Indian Contract Act 1872. It includes various areas like that. For example, what do you mean that contract? What do you mean that agreement? Then what are the essence elements of a valid contract already covered in previous class? Then what do you mean that contingent contract? Then what do you mean that quasi contract? Then performance of contract? Then discharge of contract? And remedies breach of contract? Yes, already we are covered in the previous class. Then this is the first unit. Then second unit, partnership, already covered in this last class. Partnership. What are the essence? What do you mean that partners? What do you mean that? What are the definition of partnership? What are the essential elements of a partnership? The rights and duties of partners, types of partners, then dissolution of partners already covered in the previous class. The next today, this is the second session. We are covered from the second unit, the remaining part, Sale of Goods Act, Law of Sale of Goods Act. Actually, the Sale of Goods Act was passed in 1930. What do you mean that the Sale of Goods Act? A contract of sale of goods is a contract whereby the seller transfer or agrees to transfer the property in goods to the buyers for a price. That is called contract of sale or sale of goods. A contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. Once again, what do you mean that contract of sale? A contract of sale of goods in a contract whereby the seller transfer or agrees to transfer the property in goods to the buyer for price. A contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. Then what are the essential elements of a contract of sale? What do you mean that essential element? This is very most important at the time of transfer of the goods from the one person to another person. there are 4 and 5 important essential elements of a contract of sale. So number 1, seller and buyer. Number 2, goods. Number 3, transfer of general property. Number 4, price. And number 5, essential elements of a valid contract. This is the important from the topic. What do you mean that essential elements of a valid, essential elements of a contract of sale. Number 1, seller and buyer. So there must be a seller as well as buyer. So buyer means a person who buys or agrees to buy goods. That is called. Seller means transfer of the property from the one person to another person. That is called seller. Seller means a person who sells or agrees to sell the goods. Next one, another important, what do you mean that goods? This is the subject matter of communication. This is the very most important. There must be some goods. Goods means every kind of movable property other than acceptable claims and money, and include stocks and shares like that. That is, for example, goods. Next one, transfer of the property. Right, I think transfer of property or ownership from the seller to buyer. Property means the general property in goods and not merely a special. General property in goods means ownership of the goods. Special property in goods means possession of goods. So general property is the goods means ownership. But a special property in goods means possession of goods. So I think, for example, transfer of the goods or ownership from the, for example, owner to the buyer. I think, for example, it may be hire purchase system or installment system. But there's but separate between hire purchase and installment system. There must be either transfer of ownership of goods or agreement to transfer of the ownership of goods. The ownership may transfer either immediately or completion of sale or sometime in future in agreement to sell. Next one, another important price. Price, what do you mean that price means exchange value of goods and service in terms of money. That is called price. There must be a price. Price here means the money consideration for sale of goods. When the consideration is only goods, it amounts to a border and not sale. When there is no consideration, it amounts to gift and not to sale, like that. This is the important, for example, essential elements of a contract of sale. This is most important law of sale of goods. Law of sale, actually, Law of Sale of Goods Act was passed in 1930. Next one, the essential elements of valid contract. Actually, all the essential elements of valid contract as specified under Section 10 of Indian Contract must also present since a contract of sale in special type of contract. For example, what do you mean that special all essential elements means, for example, offer plus acceptance, legal objects, legal consideration, capacity of parties, like that. So these are the important highlights regarding, for example, all the essential elements of a, அதாவது என்ன சொல்றேன் வந்து எசென்சியல் எலிமெண்ட்ஸ் ஆஃப் கான்ட்ராக்டுக்கு வந்து என்னென்ன மாதிரியான ஒரு எசென்சியல்ஸ் வந்து இம்பார்ட்டண்ட்டோ சேம் அகைன் டு வந்து என்ன சொல்றான் வந்து சேல் ஆஃப் குட்ஸ் ஆக்டுக்கும் அது இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் சொல்றான் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து. நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன் வந்து another important, another very most important from the examination point of view, very most important examination point of view, sale and agreement to sell. Sale, agreement to sell. Sale means transfer of property. Sale means transfer of property in the goods. So immediately transfer of the goods from the one person to another person, that is called sale. What do you mean that the agreement to sell, transfer to take place at a future date or subject to the fulfillment of the condition, that is called agreement to sell. அதாவது விற்பனை ஒப்பந்தம்னு சொன்னா விற்பனை அப்படிங்கிறது உடனடியாக, அதாவது விற்பனையாளரிடமிருந்து என்ன சொல்றாங்க வந்து வாங்குவருக்கு உடனடியாக அது மாற்றம் செய்யப்படுது. பட் அக்ரிமெண்ட் டு சோல் மீன்ஸ் வந்து அது ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அது ஒன் டைப் ஆஃப் எக்ஸிக்யூட்டரி கான்ட்ராக்ட். Executor means fulfillment of the legal obligation between the both of the parties, then automatically contract is performed. That is called agreement to sell. That is called, what do you mean that sale? What do you mean that agreement sale? Sale means transfer of property in the goods. But at the same time, what do you mean that agreement agreement to sell means transfer to take place at the future date or subject to the fulfillment of a condition. So number one, basis of comparison between the distinction between sale and agreement sale. When in a contract of sale, the exchange of goods for money consideration take place immediately, it is known as a sale. When in a contract of sale, the parties to a contract agree to exchange the goods for a price at a future specified date is known as agreement to sell. That is called, for example, basis of comparison, for example, sale and agreement to sell. Next one, nature. This is the number one. Sale means absolute. Agreement to sell அப்படிங்கிறது conditional. நிபந்தனை அடிப்படையில். But type of contract, executed contract, but executory contract. What do you mean that executed means both the parties fulfill his legal obligation immediately. That is called executed contract. Executory means one party fulfill his legal obligation immediately, so another party later on. That is called executed contract. That is called, for example, agreement to sell. Next one, transfer of risk. Transfer of risk, yes, but immediately transfer of the ownership and the possession from the seller to buyer. But no, there is no transfer from the seller to buyer. That is called agreement to sell. Next one, title. In sale, the title of goods transfer to the buyer, the transfer of the goods. In an agreement to sell, the title of the goods remains with the seller and there is no transfer of the goods. Right to sell, buyer and seller. Right to sell, buyer and seller. Consequence of subsequent loss or damage to the goods, responsibility of buyer, responsibility of seller. Tax, but now it includes GST, charge at the time of sale, but no tax is levied. Then these are the important highlights regarding sale and agreement to sell. Sale and agreement to sell. Next one, another important from the examination point of view, document of title to goods. Document, title means a document of title to goods is one which enables its possessor to deal with the goods described in it as if he were the owner. It is used in the ordinary course of business as proof of possession or control of goods. It authorizes either by endorsement or by delivery its possessor to transfer or receive the goods represented by it. That is called document of title to goods. Then the examination point of view not important, but just go through the topic, document to title of the goods. The another important, this is the very most important from the examination point of view, what is meant by conditions and warranty. In Tamil terms, சொல்லுவாங்க நிபந்தனை மற்றும் நம்புறுதின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. This is the at the time of purchase of goods from the seller, conditions and warranties very most important. Suppose maybe happens some event, we are claimed through from the court, but very most important, conditions and warranties. What do you mean that condition? Try to understand. Condition. A condition is a stipulation which is essential to the main purpose of the contract. Try to understand. A condition is a stipulation which is essential to the main purpose of the contract. It goes to the root of the contract. Its non-fulfillment upset the very basis of the contract. That's all. What do you mean that conditions? Warranty. What do you mean that warranty? A warranty is a stipulation which is collateral to the main purpose of the contract. It is not such a vital importance as a conditions. So what do you mean that conditions and warranty? நிபந்தனையும் அம்புறுதி அப்படிங்கிற பற்றி பார்த்தவங்களுக்கு. But the examination point of repeated questions asked from the examination. What are the distinction between conditions and warranty? Number one, difference as to value. Number two, difference as a breach. Number two, difference as to treatment. So number one, difference as to value. A condition is a stimulation which is essential to the main purpose of the contract. A warranty is a stipulation which is a collateral to the main purpose of the contract. Suppose maybe happen some events we are climb through from the court. Next one, what do you mean that difference is the breach? Breach means, for example, meerugai. If there is a breach of conditions, the aggrieved party can replicate the contract of sale. But in case of breach of warranty, the aggrieved party can claim damages only. For example, if there is a breach of condition, the aggrieved party can replicate the contract of sale. So in case of breach of warranty, the aggrieved party can claim damage only. The difference is a treatment. A breach of condition may be treated as breach of warranty. This would be happen where the aggrieved party is contented with the damages only. A breach of warranty, however, cannot be treated as a breach of condition. That's all. This is the very most important topic from the examination point of view. What do you mean that conditions and warranties? What are the difference between conditions and warranties? Next one, caveat emptor. Let us the buyer beware. அதாவது என்ன சொல்லுவோம், வாங்குபவர்தே ஜாக்கிரதையாருன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. So before purchase of goods from the sellers, must take some precautions. Let us the buyer beware. So precaution to be taken in advance. What do you mean that the caveat emptor? The doctrine of caveat emptor, this means let the buyer beware. In a contract of sale of goods, the seller is under no duty to reveal unflattering truths about the goods sold. Therefore, when a person buys some goods, he must examine them thoroughly. If the goods turn out to be defective or do not suit his purpose, or if he depends upon his own skill or judgment, makes a bad selection, he cannot blame anybody excepting. அதாவது எல்லாருமே போய் கோர்ட்டில் போய் கேஸ் போட முடியாது. நம்ம தான் ஒரு கடையில் போய் ஒரு பொருளை பார்த்து நம்ம அதை டஸ் பைய பேவர்னு சொன்னால், வாங்குபவரே ஜாக்கிரதையாரு. நாம் தான் எந்த பொருளை வாங்கினாலும் பார்த்து நம்ம வாங்கணும். எனக்கு தெரியாது, எனக்கு மிஸ்டேக் ஆயிடுச்சு, ப்ராப்ளம் ஆயிடுச்சு அப்படின்னு நம்ம யாரு மேலும் பிளேம் பண்ண முடியாது. அந்த மாதிரி சொல்றது அவங்களுக்கு லெட்டர்ஸ். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், வாட் யூ மீன் தட் டாக்டர் சார் சொல்லுங்க சார்.
ஒரு நிமிஷம் சார், some instruction கொடுக்குறாங்க ஸ்டூடண்ட்க்கு. ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார், கண்டிப்பா பண்ணலாம் சார். கோவிந்தராஜ் சார். வணக்கம் சார். வணக்கம். பஸ் now you can proceed. நீங்க ப்ரோசீட் பண்ணுங்க. ஓகே சார். Students, MBA students, please note this point regarding your CAA test. Resource person இருந்து coordinators collect பண்ணி அந்த question paper will be submit to the informatics center. Mr. ஆரோக்கியராஜ் கொடுத்துருவோம். அவர் உங்க வெப்சைட்ல எல்லா சப்ஜெக்ட் கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர் இன்க்ளூடிங் எலெக்டிவ் will be display பண்ணிடுவாரு. நீங்க என்ன செய்றீங்க, அதை அந்த கொஸ்டின் பேப்பரை எடுத்துக்கிட்டு write your test at your home எழுதிடுறீங்க. எழுதிட்டு அலாங் வித் ஆன்சர் பேப்பர் அண்ட் அசைன்மெண்ட் பேப்பர் எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு சப்ஜெக்டுக்கு டெஸ்ட்னா 1, அசைன்மெண்ட்னா 2 டெஸ்ட், அசைன்மெண்ட் 2 எல்லாத்தையும் கலெக்ட் பண்ணி ஆஸ் எ சிங்கிளா 12ஆம் தேதிக்கு முன்னாடி, 12 தான் லாஸ்ட் டேட், 12ஆம் தேதி அன்னைக்கு கிடைக்கிற மாதிரி போஸ்டல்லையோ அல்லது டைரக்டா பர்சனாவோ அந்தந்த கோஆர்டினேட்டர்கிட்ட நீங்க சப்மிட் பண்ணிருங்க.
இதுல நீங்க டிலே பண்ணிட்டீங்க, கொஞ்சம் விட்டுட்டீங்க, லேசா விட்டுட்டீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு எந்த இன்டர்வல் மார்க்கும் ஆட் ஆகாது. அப்புறம் அதனால வந்து பிரச்சனைகள் நிறைய, ரிசல்ட்ல அந்த நிறைய பிரச்சனை வந்துருச்சு. அதனால வந்து இன்டர்னலுக்கு செய்ய வேண்டிய ஆக்டிவிட்டிஸை கரெக்டா நீங்க கோஆர்டினேட்டர்கிட்ட ரீச் பண்ற மாதிரி ஏற்பாடு பண்ணிருங்க. யாராவது ஒரு ரிமோட்ல இருக்கீங்க, அல்லது யாராவது ஒரு வாலண்டியர் எடுத்து ஒரு 10 பேருக்கு மொத்தமா கலெக்ட் பண்ணி நேரடியா வந்து கொடுத்துட்டாலும் வெல் அண்ட் குட். ரொம்பவும் நீங்க இண்டிவிஜுவலா வரதை விட, திருச்சியை பொறுத்தளவு பாரதிதாசன் காஜாமலை கேம்பஸ்ல 12ஆம் தேதி ஐ ஆம் அவைலபிள், ஃபுல் டே ஐ ஆம் அவைலபிள். அந்த நேரத்துல வந்து மொத்தமா கொடுத்துட்டு நீங்க உங்களோட ஒர்க்கை முடிச்சு கூட போயிடலாம். அசைன்மெண்ட் அலாங் வித் டெஸ்ட், கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர் வில் பி சப்ளைட் நாங்க ஏற்பாடு பண்ணிடுவோம். ஓகேவா? தீஸ் ஆர் த ரெக்கார்டிங் CDE டெஸ்ட்டுக்கு ப்ளீஸ் அட்ஹேர் த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன்ஸ். தேங்க்யூ. தேங்க்யூ சார்.
தேங்க்யூ சார். தேங்க்யூ சார். ஓகே சார்.
ஓகே ஓகே
ஓகே சார். தேங்க்யூ சார். தேங்க்யூ சார். Yes, sir. Caveat emptor, the doctrine of caveat emptor, this means let the buyer beware. In the contract of sale of goods, the seller is under no duty to reveal unflattering truths about the goods sold. Therefore, when a person buys some goods, he must examine through them thoroughly. அதாவது வாங்குபவர் ஜாக்கிரதையாரு. ஒரு விற்பனையாளர் பொருளை விற்பனை செய்யும் பொழுது பையர் ஆகிய கஸ்டமர்ஸ் வந்து அந்த பொருளை பார்த்து தான் வாங்கணும். சப்போஸ் பார்த்து வாங்காம அந்த ப்ராடக்ட்ல ஏதாவது ப்ராப்ளம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கோர்ட்டில் கேஸ் போட்டாலும் பட் வந்து அது எஃபெக்டிவாக இருக்காது. பட் கன்சூமர் ப்ரொடெக்ஷன் ஆக்ட் வாஸ் பாஸ்ட் இன் 1987. That is different. There are two way. Number one, voluntary association, compulsory. Voluntary means caveat emptor. But compulsory means law protect to the buyers. Suppose maybe happen some event, consumers claim through from the court. For example, consumer court. பட் இங்கே நம்ம வந்து டாக்ட்ரின் ஆஃப் கேவட் எம்டன் லெட் அஸ் பையர் பிவேர்னு சொல்லும்போது ஜென்ரலாகவே எந்த ஒரு கன்சூமர்ஸும் யார் எந்த ஒரு நபரும் எந்த ஒரு பையரும் எந்த ஒரு பொருளை வாங்குறதுக்கு முன்னாடி அவங்க வந்து தரவா அதை செக் பண்ணிட்டு அது குவாலிட்டியாக இருக்குதா இல்லையா அப்படிங்கிறத வந்து பார்த்து வாங்கணுங்கிறது ஒரு நார்ம்ஸ் இருக்குது. தட் இஸ் கால்டு, அதான் வந்து சொல்லக்கூடியது. That one of the exemptions, the doctrine of caveat emptor has certain important exemptions. Exemption means விலக்குகள். Fitness for the buyer's purpose, sale under a patent or trade name, merchantable quality, usage of trade, consent by fraud. So these are the important highlights regarding exemptions of the doctrine of caveat emptor. Next, another important topic, transfer of the property. Transfer of the property. Normally, transfer of the property means transfer of the property from seller to the buyer is the main object of the contract sale. But a sale either, for example, sale or agreement to sell. Sale means immediately transfer of the property or ownership from the seller to the buyer. But agreement to sell, but one party, either seller or buyer, fulfill his obligation at the time of agreement. So another party in future, based on agreement, fulfill his legal obligation. Then, for example, transfer of the property, or either, for example, hire purchase system, or for example, installment system. Any other, for example, hire purchase system, that is different from the, for example, installment based system. But whatever may be, but the agreement to sale between the seller and the buyer, agreement between, for example, transfer of the property from the seller to buyer. So transfer of the property in goods from the seller to the buyer is the main object of a contract of sale. Property in goods means the ownership of goods, whereas possession of goods refer to the custody or control of goods. An article may belong to, although it may not be in possession, may be in possession that article, although he is not its owner. For example, this is the important, what do you mean, the terms of the property. Then risk follows of ownership, action against third parties, insolvency of the buyer. So these are the important, for example, movement of time at which property in goods passes from the seller to the buyers for the following reasons. There are three important highlights. Next one, another important, what are the rights and duties of the buyer? Rights and duties, what are the rights? Getting the rights. What are the duties? What are the rights means உரிமைகள். என்னென்ன உரிமைகள் இருக்கு? But same duties means what are the கடமைகள் என்ன இருக்கு? Number one, rights of the buyer, right to have delivery as per the contract. Right to have delivery as per the contract. Number two, right to reject the goods if the seller sent to the buyers at a larger or smaller quantity of goods than he ordered. Right to reject, அதாவது ஒப்பந்தம் பண்ணும் பொழுது என்ன ஒப்பந்தம் பண்ணாங்களோ அந்த ஒப்பந்தம் பண்ணும் பொழுது அந்த என்ன மாதிரியான ஒரு குவான்டிட்டி பண்ணாங்களோ அந்த குவான்டிட்டி குறைவாகவோ அதிகமாகவோ சப்போஸ் அவங்க வந்து டெலிவரி பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கனாக்கா அந்த மாதிரி சமயத்தில் என்ன பண்ணலாம், வந்து ரிஜெக்ட் பண்ணலாம். ரைட் டு ரிஜெக்ட் த குட்ஸ் if the seller sent to the buyer a larger or smaller quantity goods than he ordered. Next, right to repudiate the contract. Next, right to notice of insurance. Suppose maybe happens some event, so compensation claim through from the court. But nowadays, export business 100% coverage for the cargo insurance. Right to examine the goods which he previously has not examined before he accepts them. This is another important rights of the buyer. Right against the seller for breach of contract. Right against the seller, அதாவது ஒப்பந்த மீறுகை, கேட்டதை கொடுக்கல, அந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷன் ஏற்படும் பொழுது என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து, for example, that is called breach. Breach means ஒப்பந்த மீறுகை. So affected party can claim from the court. Right against the seller for breach of contract, for example, suit for damages, suit for price, or suit for specific performance. That is called suit for the breach of warranty. This is the important highlights regarding right against the seller for breach of contract. Next one, duties of the buyer. What are the duties? Duty to accept the goods and pay for them in exchange for possession. Duty to accept the goods and pay for them in exchange for possession. Duty to apply for delivery. Duty to apply for delivery. Apart from any express contract, it is duty of the buyer to apply for delivery. Duty to demand delivery at a reasonable hour. Duty to accept installment delivery and pay for it if it is agreed so in advance. Next, duty to take risk of deterioration in the goods in the course of transit. Next, duty to intimate the seller when he reject the goods. Duty to intimate the seller. அதாவது சப்போஸ் ஆர்டர் பண்ண பொருளுக்கு மாறா ஏதாவது இல்லை ஏதாவது வாட்டர் மேபி எனி கான்ட்ரவர்சி, ஏதாவது எனி ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் பிட்வீன் த செல்லர் அண்ட் பையர், unless otherwise agreed, it is duty of the buyer to inform the seller in case of refuse to accept the goods. ஏதோ ஒரு டேர்ம்ஸ் அண்ட் கண்டிஷன்ஸ் மாறும் பொழுது என்ன பண்ணலாம், வந்து அதை ரிஜெக்ட் பண்ணலாம். அது மஸ்ட் இன்ஃபார்ம்னு சொல்கிறோம். அது டியூட்டி டு இன்டிமேட், தெரிவிக்கணும்னு சொல்கிறான். டியூட்டி டு டேக் டெலிவரி ஆஃப் குட்ஸ் with reasonable time. Duty to take delivery of goods at within எந்த நேரத்தில் எந்த டயத்தில் குட்ஸை வந்து சப்ளையர் வந்து ஐ மீன் செல்லர் வந்து சப்ளை பண்ணுறாங்க அந்த சமயத்தில் அந்த டயத்துக்குள்ளே அதை ரிசீவ் பண்ணக்கூடிய ஒரு ரைட்ஸ் டியூட்டி வந்து யாருக்குன்னு சொன்னால் பையருக்கு உண்டுன்னு சொல்கிறான். டியூட்டி டு பே ப்ரைஸ் அக்கார்டிங் டு தம் டேர்ம்ஸ் ஆஃப் த கான்ட்ராக்ட். டியூட்டி டு பே ப்ரைஸ் அக்கார்டிங் டு த terms of the contract. Where property, sorry, next one, duty to pay damages for non-acceptance by negligence or wrongful refusal to accept and pay for the goods. So this is the important highlights regarding duties of the buyer. Next one, rights of an unpaid seller. This is very most important. Repeated questions asked from the examination. What are the rights of an unpaid seller? Unpaid means those who are not properly repaid at the time of agreement. That is called unpaid. Seller here means not only the actual seller, but also any person who is in the possession of a seller, an agent of the seller to whom a bill of lading has been endorsed, or a consignee or agent who has himself paid for goods directly or respond for the price. Rights of unpaid seller against the goods against personally, where the property in the goods has passed the lien, the stoppage of transit, where the property in the goods has not passed, withholding delivery, stoppage in transit. These are the important highlights. For example, the right of lien, rights of unpaid seller against the goods, where the property in the goods has passed to the buyer, and unpaid seller has the following rights against the goods. Rights of lien. Lien means, for example, until payment of the price. A lien is a right to retain possession of goods until payment of the price. அதாவது ஒரு பொருளை விற்கிறேன்னு சொல்லியாச்சு, அதுக்கான பணம் எப்போ கைக்கு வருதோ அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் என்ன பண்ணுவான், அந்த பொருளை வந்து ரிலீஸ் பண்ணுவான். That is called lien means பற்றுரிமை. It is available to the unpaid seller of the goods who is possession of them. The goods have been sold without any stipulation as a credit. The goods have been sold on credit, but the terms of the credit has expired. The term becomes insolvent, like that. Next one, right of stoppage in transit. The right of stoppage in transit in a right of stopping the goods in transit after unpaid seller has parted with the possession of the goods. When the buyer becomes insolvent, when the goods are in transit. This is another important, for example, rights of an unpaid seller, rights of withholding delivery, right of stoppage of transit. That's all. These are important highlights. Next, rights against the buyer personally. This is second part of the rights of unpaid seller. Rights of an unpaid seller against the buyer personally. These are the rights which an unpaid seller may enforce against the buyer personally. These rights of the seller against the buyer are called rights of personally, as against the rights in the realm. Right means right against the goods and or addition to his rights against the goods. Suit for price where property has passed, where property has not passed. Suit for damages, like that. So these are the important highlights regarding rights of unpaid sellers. Next one, another important, the same unit, another topic, rights of find and lost of goods. What do you mean that find and lost of goods? காணாமல் போன பொருளை கண்டெடுப்பவருடைய உரிமைகள் என்ன? That is called rights of find and lost. காணாமல் போன பொருளை கண்டெடுப்பவருடைய உரிமைகள் என்ன? The find and lost of goods has no right to sue the owner for the compensation for trouble and expenses voluntarily incurred by him. Number one, to preserve the goods. Number two, to find out the owner. அதாவது அந்த பொருளை பாதுகாப்பாக வச்சுக்கணும். அந்த ஓனர் எப்போ வந்து சப்போஸ் மேபி அனௌன்ஸ்டு ஃப்ரம் த ஓனர் டு த பப்ளிக், அதாவது காணாமல் போன பொருளை கண்டெடுத்து கொடுப்பவர்களுக்கு வந்து சன்மானம் வழங்கப்படும்னு சொல்லி ஏதாவது அறிக்கை விட்டிருந்தாருனாக்க அது அந்த 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 அதற்கான அந்த தொகையை, அந்த சன்மானத்தை பெறுவதற்கு முழு உரிமை யாருக்கு உண்டுன்னு சொன்னால் வந்து காணாமல் பொருளை கண்டெடுத்துருக்கு அந்த உரிமை உண்டுன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. ஸோ அது வரலையும் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணோம், அது வரலையும் அந்த எடுத்த ஒரு நபர் என்ன பண்ணோம், அந்த பொருளை வந்து பாதுகாப்பாக வச்சுக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறது ஒரு நார்ம்ஸ் அப்படின்னு அதான் சொல்கிறாங்க வந்து. தட் இஸ் கால்டு ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அதுதான் ஃபைண்ட் லாஸ்ட் ஆஃப் குட்ஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது உங்கள் மெட்டீரியலே தெளிவாக உங்களுக்கு இருக்கும். நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன் அனதர் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட், what do you mean that agency, agent. An agent is a person employed to do any act for the another or to represent another to bring him into legal relations with a third person. Agent, those who are acting on behalf of others, that is called agent. Agent means முகமைன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, முகமை ஒப்பந்தம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Those who are acting on behalf of others. In partnership firm, every partners act as the agent. Agent means those who are acting on behalf of others. அதாவது the principal and agent. அதாவது ஒவ்வொரு கூட்டாண்மை ஒப்பந்தத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒப்பந்தத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்கா ஒவ்வொரு கூட்டாளிகளுடைய அவருடைய பொசிஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்கா பிரின்சிபல் அண்ட் ஏஜென்ட், முதன்மை, அதாவது முதலாளியாகவும் இருப்பாங்க, அவங்க வந்து முகவராகவும் இருப்பாங்க அப்படிங்கிறது அந்த கான்செப்ட். இப்போ இங்கே வந்து an agent is a person employed to do any act for another to a person, another to bring him into legal relation with the third parties. The person for whom such act is done or who is represented is canned the principal, that is called for example agent. Next வந்து what are the explain the various modes of creation of agency. எந்தெந்த வழிகளின் மூலமாக நாம் என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து முகமை ஒப்பந்தத்தை உருவாக்கலாம். For example, there are various modes to create the contact of agency. Number one, express authority. Number two, implied authority. Number three, by ratifications. Implied can be classified in three parts: by estoppel, by holding out, by necessity, by operation of law. What I mean that agency by express authority, an agency by express authority is created when an express authority is given to the agent by spoken or written. அதாவது வாய்மொழி மூலமாகவோ எழுத்து மூலமாகவோ ஒரு முகமை ஒப்பந்தம் நியமனம் செய்யப்பட்டா அது that is called for example agency by express authority. Agency by implied authority means that is called for example an agency which has to be understood from the conduct and behavior of the parties is called implied agency. அதாவது சம்பந்தப்பட்ட நபர்களுடைய நடத்தையின் அடிப்படையில் உருவாக்கப்படுவதா என்ன சொல்றாங்க வந்து that is called for example agency by implied authority. It is to be inferred from the circumstances of the case and things spoken or written. That is called for example agency by implied authority. Next, agency by ratification. A person may act on behalf of another person without his knowledge or consent. Once again, a person may act on behalf of another person without his knowledge or consent. For example, the consists of ratification. No valid rectification can be made by a person whose knowledge of the facts of the case is materially defective. The principle must be existence at the time when the act is done in his name. Next one, last one. Agency by operation of law. Agency by operation of law is said to arise where the law treats one person as an agent of another. சட்டத்தின் மூலமாக அது நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம், நியமனம் செய்யப்படுறது தான். நான் சொல்றேன் உங்களுக்கு வந்து, for example, this is the very most important from the examination point of view from the agency. Explain the various modes of creation of agency. It can be classified through broad heads and subheads already we are covered in the right. Next one, another important classification of agents. Classification, general classification of agents. Then special, then another classification of agents. Number one, general classification can be classified into three broad heads. Number one, special agent. Number two is general agent. Number three, universal agent. Special agent is one who is appointed to perform a particular act to represent his principal in some particular transaction. For example, special agent. General agent is one who has authority to do all acts connected with a particular trade or business or employment. That is called general agent. A universal agent is one whose authority to act for the principal is unlimited. That is called, for example, this is the general classification of agents. Next one, another important from the examination point of view, this is the most important classification on the basis of extent of authority, on the basis of nature of work. Already covered number one, for example, on the basis of extent of authority. On the basis of nature of work, mercantile agent, broker, factor, actioner, commission agent, delegated agent, banker agent, like that. Non-mercantile agent, attorneys, solicitors, wife, insurance agents, election agents. There are two, for example, mercantile agent, commercial or mercantile means having in the customary course of business as such agent authority either to sell goods or to consign goods for the purpose of sale or buy goods to raise money on the security of the goods. It is called mercantile or commercial agents. Next, mercantile agents can be classified into many subheads. Factor, broker, actioner, commission agent, delegated agent, banker, like that. Factor is a mercantile agent entrusted with the possession of goods and who has authority to buy, sell, or otherwise deal with the goods or to raise money or aid their security. He has general lien on the goods. That is called factoring. Broker, a broker is one who negotiates and makes contact between principal and third party. That is called broker. Actioner, for example, ஏழை விற்பனை செய்கிறவங்க. An actioner is one who is entrusted with the possession of goods for sale to a public action. For example, commission agent, those who act on behalf of others. The term commission agent is a general term which is used in practice even for a factor or broker. He is employed to buy and sell goods or transact business generally for other person, receiving for his labor and trouble a money payment called commission. Next one, a delegator agent is one who gives guarantee to his principal to the effect that the third person with whom he enter into contracts shall perform his obligations. He gives such a guarantee for extra remuneration, which is called delegator commission. Next, a banker. Banker also one of the, for example, banker also one of the agent. Those who act on behalf of the customers. Bankers act as the agent of customer when he collects checks or drafts or bills or buys or sells securities on behalf of his customers. அதாவது பங்குகளை வாங்கி விற்கிறான், செக் டிராஃப்ட் என்ன பண்ணா கஸ்டமருக்காக வாங்கி கொடுக்குறான், ரெண்ட் பே பண்றான், நிறைய ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இன் ஜென்ரல் பப்ளிக் யூட்டிலிட்டி சர்வீசஸ் இன் பர்டிகுலர் டேர்ம்ஸ் whatever may be, banker services, all services, customer services. Actually, bankers act on behalf of the customers. So bankers act on behalf of the customers. அதாவது வங்கியர்னு சொன்னா வங்கியோட எல்லா சேவைகளுமே பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்க வாடிக்கையாளர் சேவைகள் தான். உங்களுக்கு என்ன தேவையோ, there are many services given to the customers in bankers, I think, for example. Next one, non-mercantile agents. These includes attorneys, solicitors, insurance agents, election agents, clearing and forwarding agents, and like that. For example, சொல்லலாம். Next one, agents authority. Delegation of authority of agent. Delegation means rights and obligations given to the agent. The general rule is that the agent is not entitled to delegate his authority to another person without consent of his principal. Delegate, non-product delegate is the maximum, which means that the person to whom authority has been given cannot delegate that authority is to another. That is called sub-agent. Sub-agent is a person employed and acting under the control of original agent in the business of the agency. This means he is an agent of the original agent. Relation of sub-agent of the original agent between themselves, that for the agent and the principal. This is at the same time position of principals and the agent in relation to third parties. Then another important positions of principal and agent in relation to third parties. The position of principal and his agent as regards contracts made by the agent with the third parties may be discussed under the following heads. Number one, named principal. The position of named principal for the act for his agents, act of agent or the act of the principal. The principal is liable for the act of the agent with the third persons provided his acts done. When the agent exceed his authority, when an agent exceed his authority to do work of the principal is bound by that part of the work which is within the authority and which can be separated from the part which is beyond his authority. Notice given to the agent as notice to principal. The principal is bound by the notice given to or information obtained by the agent in course of his business of the principal. The principal is also bound by the admission made by the agent. Principal inducing belief that agents' unauthorized act were authorized. A misrepresentation or fraud of agent. The principal is liable for misrepresentation made or frauds committed by the agent in course of his business for the principal. unnamed principal. When an agent contract an agent for principal but does not disclose his name, the principal is liable for the contract of the agent unless there is trade, customs, or term expressed or implied to the effect which makes the agent personally liable. These are the important highlights. Then undisclosed principal, the position of principal. Sometimes an agent not only, for example, conceal the name of the principal, but also the fact that he is the agent. This gives rise to doctrine of undisclosed principal. The agent in such a case gives impression to the third party if he contracting in an independent capacity. The position of principal, the position of agent, the position of third parties. Undisclosed principal. When an undisclosed principal is subsequently discovered or he himself intervenes, the other contracting party may sue the principal or the agent or both. The position of agent is between the principal and the agent. The agent has also the rights of an agent against the principal, but he, as regards the third party, he is personally liable on the contract. Then the position of the third parties in contract with the agent for an undisclosed principal, the third party may elect sue their principal, agent, or both. This is the, for example, important highlights regarding undisclosed principal under the heads of position of principal and agent in relation to the third parties. அதாவது முதல்வர், அதாவது ஓனரோ முகவரோ மூன்றாம் நபரோட அந்த விற்பனை ஒப்பந்தத்தில் உடன்பாடு வச்சிருந்தாங்கனாக்கா அதில் என்னென்ன மாதிரியான ஒரு அவங்க ரைட்ஸ் அண்ட் ஆப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ் இருக்குது அப்படிங்கிறத வந்து இஸ் கால்டு personal liability of the agent. Sometimes, for example, not only for example third parties, some liable goes to the agent. Say in the transaction between the, for example, on behalf of either, for example, principal and agent in the way of negligence, the general rule in that only the principal can enforce and can be held liable a contract entered into by the agent except when there is a contract of the contrary. That is, for example, in case of foreign principal, in case of the disclosed principal, in case of competent principal, in case of principal not existence, in case of act of not ratified, in case of express agreement, in case of customs or usage, right, like that. These are important highlights regarding, for example, personal liability of agent. Next one, rights of an agent. Agent rights of retainer. Retain பண்ணி வச்சுக்கணும். That is called retainer. An agent has the right to retain out of any sum received on account of principal in the business of agency all monies due to himself in respect of the following: advance made by him, expenses properly incurred by him in conducting such a business, such a remittance remuneration as may be payable to him for acting an agent, right to receive remuneration, etc. இந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷனில் வந்து நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து ரீட்டைன் பண்ணி வச்சுக்கலாம். ரைட்ஸ் ஆஃப் ரீட்டைனர். ரைட்ஸ் ஆஃப் லீன். In absence of any contract of contrary, an agent is entitled to retain goods, papers, or other property, whether movable or immovable, of the principal received by him until the amount due to him of for commission, disbursement and service respect of same. அதாவது நம்ம கொடுக்க வேண்டிய கமிஷன் கொடுக்காம இருந்தாலோ, கொடுக்க வேண்டிய பணம் கொடுக்காம இருந்தாலோ, நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து அந்த பொருளை வந்து பற்றுமையாக வச்சுக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்றது. இஸ் கால்டு ரைட்ஸ் ஆஃப் லீன். ரைட்ஸ் டு பி இன்டிமினிஃபைட் அகேன்ஸ்ட் த கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் ஆஃப் லா. அதாவது சட்டத்துக்கு முரணாக ஏதாவது ஏற்பட்டது, அது மூலமாக ஏதாவது நஷ்டம் அடைஞ்சால் அதை ரீட்டைன் பண்ணுறதுக்கு, அதை வாங்குறதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து அதை இது பண்ணிக்கலாம். அவங்களுக்கு வந்து ரைட் டு பி இன்டிமினிஃபைட் அகேன்ஸ்ட் த கான்சிக்யூஷன் ஆஃப் லா ஆஃப் லாஃபுல் ஆஃப் ஆக்ட்ஸ். Right to indemnify against the consecution of fact done இன் குட் ஃபைத், நன்னறியோடு செய்திருந்து அதனால் ஏதாவது பாதிப்பு ஏற்பட்டுச்சுன்னா அதுவும் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து கிளைம் பண்ணலாம். ரைட் டு ரிசீவ் காம்பன்சேஷன் ஃபார் இன்ஜுரி காஸ்டு பை பிரின்சிபல்ஸ் நெகுலேட், அதாவது முதல்வருடைய கவனக்குறைவால் ஏதாவது பாதிப்பு ஏற்பட்டுச்சுனாக்கா அதையும் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து கெட்டிங் கமிஷன் for example compensation from the principal. So these are the important highlights. For example, rights of an agent, அதாவது உரிமைகள், உங்களுடைய உரிமைகள் நம்ம பார்த்தோம். Next one, another one, duties of an agent. Duties means the various duties of the கடமைகள். An agent owes a number of duties to his principal which varies in degree according to the nature of agency. To carry out the work undertook according to his directions, to carry out work with reasonable care and skill diligence. Once I to carry out work undertake according to the direction given by principal, to carry out work with reasonable care and skill and diligence, to render proper accounts to the principal. An agent is bound to render proper accounts to his principal on demand, to communicate with the principal in case of difficulty, not to deal on his own account. அதாவது முதல்வர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரோ அது அப்படியே வந்து முகவரை கேட்கணும். அதாவது முழு பொறுப்பு எடுத்துக்கிறாரு, கரெக்டாக செய்யணும், ரீசனபிள் கேர் எடுத்துக்கணும், அந்த ஸ்கில் பார்த்துக்கணும், அதே போல் வந்து ப்ராப்பராக அக்கௌண்ட்ஸ் சப்மிட் பண்ணணும், அதே போல் வந்து எல்லா அக்கௌண்ட்ஸுமே சரண்டர் பண்ணணும், எல்லா விஷயத்துக்கும் ப்ராப்பர் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணணும் கம்யூனிகேட் பண்ணிடணும். அதே போல் நாட் டு டீல் ஒன் கேஸ், சொந்த கணக்கு ஓப்பன் பண்ணி அது மாதிரி நம்ம தனிப்பட்ட முறையில் லாபம் சம்பாதிக்கக்கூடாது. நாட் டு டீல் ஆன் ஹிஸ் ஓன் அக்கௌண்ட், டு பே சம்ஸ் ரிசீவ்ட் ஃபார் த பிரின்சிபல் whatever may be, to pay the sums, for example, to protect the preserve interest of the principal in case of death or insolvency. For example, these are the important highlights. Not to step out adverse title. These are the important, for example, highlights regarding, for example, duties of an agent. Next, another important in the same unit, termination of agency. What do you mean termination? எந்தெந்த வகைகளில் முகமை ஒப்பந்தம் முடிவுக்கு வருகிறது? That is called various modes of creation of agency. எப்படி நம்ம முக்கியம் சொன்னோமோ அதே போல various modes of termination of agency முக்கியமானது. எந்தெந்த வகைகளில், அதாவது என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க, அதாவது எந்தெந்த வகைகளில் வந்து ஏஜென்சி உருவாக்கப்படுகிறதோ அதே போல எந்தெந்த வகைகளில் முகமை ஒப்பந்தம் முடிவுக்கு வருகிறது. It is called modes of termination of agency. Number one, the various modes in which the agency may be terminated are as follows. Number one, termination of agency by act of the parties. That's based on agreement, act of the parties. Number one, number one, by mutual agreement, as agency is terminated if the principal and agent mutually agree to. அதாவது குறிப்பிட்ட காலம் வரையும் நம்ம ஏஜெண்டா பிரின்சிபல் இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு ஒப்பந்தம் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கன்னாக்கா அந்த அடிப்படையில் கூட என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து திரும்ப பெற்றுக்கலாம் அப்படின்றான். டெர்மினேஷன்னா முடிவு கொண்டு வந்துக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கிறான். அது பை ரிவோகேஷன் ஆஃப் அத்தாரிட்டி பை த பிரின்சிபல், அதாவது அந்த அதிகாரத்தை வந்து திரும்ப பெற்றாலும் கூட அது மூலம் கூட என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து அது ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் in termination, for example, termination of agency. That's all. Next, termination of agency by operation of law. Operation of law. Operation of law means on completion of the business of the agency. This is another important. Second one, termination of agency by operation of law. Number one, on completion of business of agency. One reason அது மூலம் டெர்மினேட் ஆகலாம். An agency is automatically terminated when the business of agency is completed. Automatically complete ஆச்சுன்னா அது மூலமாக டெர்மினேட் ஆகலாம். Or on death or on becoming of unsound mind of principal or agent. Unsound mind either, for example, lunatics or idiots like that maybe happen. Either principal or agent. An agency is automatically terminated when the principal or agent dies, becomes or unsound. அதாவது இறந்து போனாலோ இல்லை வந்து மனநிலை பாதிக்கப்பட்டாலோ அது மூலமா என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து ஏஜென்சி வந்து முடிவுக்கு வரலாம் சொல்லலாம். ஆன் இன்சால்வென்சி ஆஃப் த பிரின்சிபல், அதாவது முதல்வர் வந்து நொடித்து போனாலோ அது மாதிரி ஆகலாம். ஆன் எக்ஸ்பிரி ஆஃப் த ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் பீரியட், ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட கால அவகாசம் முடிந்தாலோ, ஆர் ஆன் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் சப்ஜெக்ட் மேட்டர். ஏன்னா ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் subject matter of contract very most important. Suppose without consent from the principal or agent maybe to change, or for example distraction may be a reason, for example termination of agent on the, for example by operation of law. Next, on winding up of the company, நிறுவனம் கலைக்கப்படுவதன் மூலமாக என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து அந்த ஏஜென்சி ஒப்பந்த முடிவுக்கு வரலாம். On principle become an aligned enemy, அதாவது அந்த முதல்வர் வந்து எதிரி நாட்டவராக இருந்தால் அது மூலம் முடிவுக்கு வரலாம். So these are the important highlights regarding, for example, termination of agency. Explain the various modes of termination of agency. Once again, already we are covered what do you mean that agent, then explain the various modes of creation of agent, agency. Next, classification of agents. Next, rights and obligations of, rights and duties of agent, like that. These are the important highlights. And the last one, termination of agency. Termination of agency, these are important highlights regarding, for example, in the unit already over. Over the second unit, that also maximum covered for that also, the over the third unit, termination agents already over. Next, this is the last one, termination of agency. அதாவது எந்தெந்த வழிகள் மூலமாக முகமை ஒப்பந்தம் முடிவுக்கு வருகிறது, that is called, for example, termination of agency. Next, next fourth unit, sale of goods, Companies Act. Companies Act. What do you mean that Companies Act? What do you mean that company? Then formation of company. What do you mean that memorandum? What do you mean that memorandum? Then articles. Then prospectus missing from the syllabus. Shares, debentures, directors, appointment, powers and duties of directors, meetings, proceedings, management accounts, audit, operation and mismanagement, and winding up. What do you mean that company? Actually, Companies Act was passed 2030, but not 1956, but not amendment. அதாவது இந்திய நிறுவன சட்டம்னு சொன்னால் 2013, எல்லாருமே 1956 சொல்லுவாங்க. 2013 அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து 2013 என்ன பண்ணிட்டான், சட்டத்தை மாற்றிட்டான், ஆக்டை மாற்றிட்டான். பிஃபோர் 2030 அண்ட் ஆஃப்டர் 2030, அதாவது 2013 முன்னாடி கம்பெனி ஆரம்பித்தவங்க 1956 பேஸ் பண்ணி ஆரம்பிச்சிருப்பாங்க. 2013 அப்புறமேட்டுக்கு ஆரம்பித்தவங்க 2013 என்ன நாம்ஸ் இருக்கோ அதை பேஸ் பண்ணி ஆரம்பிச்சிருப்பாங்க. தட் இஸ் கால்டு, அதுதான் கம்பெனிஸ் ஆக்ட் அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து 2013, நாட் 1956. உங்களுடைய புக்கில் 56 இருக்கும், அதை மாற்றிக்கலாம், நீங்கள் மாற்றிக்கிங்க. A company is an artificial being, invisible, intangible, existing and only in the contemplation of law. சொன்னா a company means a group of persons associated together for attaining the common interest or objectives. in particular way, from my point of view, there are 5 forms of business organization. Number 1, sole trader. Number 2, partnership. Number 3, joint stock company. Joint stock company can be classified into 2 parts, either public company or private company. Number 3, cooperatives. Number 4, government company. What do you mean that sole trader or sole proprietorship? What do you mean that sole trader, sole proprietorship means single person contribute to start the business, that is called sole trader or sole proprietorship. There is no sharing of profit or loss, but at the same time no separation between the ownership and management. That is called, for example, sole trader. What even that partnership, 2 or more person join with equal or proportionately or based agreement, it is called partnership. அதுவும் அவங்களுடைய கூட்டாண்மை, ஆக்சுவலி பார்ட்னர்ஷிப் ஆக்ட் வாஸ் பாஸ்ட் இன் 1932. அது ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஈக்குவலாக போடலாம், இல்லை அதிகமாக போடலாம். அது பேஸ்ட் அக்ரிமெண்ட் பேஸ் பண்ணி அது இஸ் கால்டு ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அது பார்ட்னர்ஷிப் சொல்லுவோம். கம்பெனி மீன்ஸ் தெர் ஆர் 2 வே, private company and public company. Private company, minimum 2 persons, maximum not exceeding 50 in the earlier act, but now 250. In public company, minimum 7, no limited. So you understand, 2030, but earlier act, but only change from the private company. What even the private company, minimum number of members and maximum number of members. There is no transfer of shares from one person to another person. At the same time, not accepted deposit from the public. It is called private company. Public company, transfer of shares from one company to one person to another person. At the same time, accepted deposit from the public. Then minimum number of members 7, maximum, for example, unlimited, like these are the company, for example. Next, what do you mean that cooperative means? What is the purpose to start the cooperative? For the purpose of benefit goes to the weaker sections of the society. சமுதாயத்தில் பின்தங்கிய மக்களுக்கு தரமான பொருளை விலை குறைவாக கொடுக்கறதுக்காக தான் என்ன பண்ண வந்து அந்த கோஆப்ரேட்டிவ் இதுவே கவர்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா வந்து ஆரம்பித்தான். அதில் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்கா இன்னமும் அது சக்ஸஸ்ஃபுல்லாக தான் போயிட்டுருக்கு. உங்களுக்கு வந்து அது வந்து அஃபோர்டபுள் காஸ்ட்டில் என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, கவர்மெண்ட் என்ன பண்ணுறா, சில குட்ஸ் என்ன பண்ணால் ப்ரொவைட் பண்ணுறாங்க அவங்களுக்கு வந்து அதை கோஆப்ரேட்டிவ் சொல்லக்கூடியது. நெக்ஸ்ட் லாஸ்ட் ஒன் கவர்மெண்ட் கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னால் வந்து கவர்மெண்ட் கம்பெனி அப்படிங்கிறது அபோவ் 50% கவர்மெண்ட் கான்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணுறத கவர்மெண்ட் கம்பெனின்னு சொல்லுவோம். இதில் எதுக்கு சொல்ல வரேன்னு சொன்னால் மெயினாக நீங்கள் புரிஞ்சுக்கணும், வாட் எவர் மே பி எனி ஃபார்ம் டு ஸ்டார்ட், but very most important, amount of capital is contributed or invested. What are the factors, for example, influencing to start suitable form of organization? Very most important, amount of capital invested or contributed. For example, either for example sole trader or partnership, then compare the public company or private company. For example, larger amount of capital invested. அதான் உங்களுக்கு வந்து அது டிஃப்ரென்ஸ். கம்பெனி மீன்ஸ் அதான் நிறுவனம்னு சொன்னோம்னாக்க, அதாவது சொல்லும் பொழுது வந்து சோல் ட்ரேடர்னாக்க ஒருத்தர் போட்டு பிஸ்னஸ் ஆரம்பிப்பார். பார்ட்னர்ஷிப்னு சொன்னோம்னாக்க 2 பேர் 5 பேர் 10 பேர் இருப்பாங்க. ப்ரைவேட் கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னால் குறைஞ்சபட்சம் வந்து 2 பேர் இருப்பாங்க, அதிகபட்சம் 250 பேர் இருப்பாங்க. ஆளுக்கு 10 லட்ச ரூபா போட்டால் வந்து 2.5 கோடி ரூபாய் பிஸ்னஸ் போட்டு ஆரம்பிக்கலாம். அதே வந்து பப்ளிக் கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னோம்னாக்க என்ன சொல்கிறான் வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் வந்து 100 கோடி 200 கோடி பணம் தேவைப்படும். அதை என்ன பண்ணுவோம், பொதுமக்கள்கிட்ட வந்து என்ன பண்ணுவோம், அவங்களுக்கு வந்து டெபாசிட்ஸ் வாங்குவோம். அப்போ வந்து வாட்டர் மேபி என்ன சொல்கிறான் வந்து அதாவது வாட்டர் மேபி டு ஸ்டார்ட் எனி ஃபார்ம்ஸ், பட் வெரி மோஸ்ட் இம்பார்ட்டண்ட் நம்ம என்ன சொல்கிறோம் வந்து அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல் ஆர் இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸ் வெரி மோர். அதான் நம்ம எந்த ஃபார்மில் ஆரம்பிக்கிறோம் அப்படிங்கிறது முக்கியமானது. இன் பப்ளிக் கம்பெனி இன் கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னாவே நம்ம என்ன சொல்கிறோம் உங்களுக்கு வந்து அது ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் நீட் ஃபார் லார்ஜர் அமௌண்ட். ஸோ மொபைலைஸ் ஃப்ரம் த பப்ளிக் இன் த ஃபார்ம் ஆஃப் ஷேர்ஸ் அண்ட் டிபெஞ்சர்ஸ் ப்ரிஃபரன்சஸ் லைக் தட் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள். அப்போ கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னால் வந்து என்ன சொல்கிறான் வந்து எ வாலண்டரி அசோசியேஷன் ஆஃப் பர்சன் ஃபார் சம் காமன் ஆப்ஜெக்டிவ் தட் இஸ் கால்டு கம்பெனி. ஒன்ஸ் அகைன் எ வாலண்டரி association of persons for some common objectives or common interest. That a company means a group of persons associate together for attaining some common interest or objective. This is the meaning. Definition: an association of many persons who contribute money or money's worth to a common stock and employee. It is in some common trade or business and whose share of profits or loss arising therefrom. The common stock so contributed is denoted is money and is capital of the company. That is called, அதாவது சொல்றாங்கல்ல ஷேர் அப்படிங்கிறது. What do you mean that share? A sum of amount received from the person, that is called share. For example, 1 lakh shares of rupees 100 each means 1 crore. 1 lakh shares of rupees 1000 each, for example, 100 crores. 1 crore, 100 crores. 1 lakh shares of shares of rupees 1000 each means 100 crores. அதாவது 1 லட்சம் பேத்துக்கிட்ட தலா 1000 ரூபாய் வாங்கினோம்னாக்கா எவ்வளோச்சு 100 கோடி ரூபாய் ஆச்சு. அப்போ 100 கோடி ரூபாய் போட்டு நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுறோம், பிஸ்னஸ் ஆரம்பிக்கிறோம். அதுதான் நான் சொல்கிறோம் பப்ளிக் கம்பெனின்னு சொல்கிறோம். கம்பெனின்னு சொல்கிறோம் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து கம்பெனிங்கிறது அதுதான். அதாவது கம்பெனி இஸ் ஏ வாலண்டரி அசோசியேஷன் ஆஃப் பர்சன்ஸு தான் சொல்கிறோம் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து. அதாவது பர்சன் இட் ஹேஸ் கேபிட்டல் டிவிசபிள் இன் பார்ட்ஸ் known as shares. At the same time, it is an artificial person created by process of law. It has a perpetual succession and common seal. It exists only in condemnation of law. It is regarded by the law as person just as a human beings like that, for example. That is called. Then another important, what are the characteristics of a company? அதாவது நிறுவனத்தினுடைய இயல்புகள் என்ன, information before that, what are the characteristics of company? Number 1, separate legal entity. Separate from ownership and management, that is called separate legal entity. Separate from its members, அதாவது உரிமையாளர் வேற மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் வேற. அதாவது பப்ளிக் கம்பெனியை பொறுத்தவரை ஒவ்வொரு ஷேர் ஹோல்டரும் உரிமையாளர் தான். பட் வந்து அதை மேனேஜ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு யார் இருக்கிறா, போர்ட் ஆஃப் டைரக்டர்ஸ் இருக்கிறாங்க. ஆக்சுவலி BODs act on behalf of the shareholders. Right, understand? Board of directors act on behalf of the shareholders. A company is regarded as an entity separate it from members by law. It has an independent corporate existence. The company's monies and the property belong to the company, like that. Limited liability in public company, each and every member's liability limited by shares. Suppose maybe happen some event, for example, limited by shares, but the agreement between company and the shareholder, that is different. Either, for example, guarantee or limited by shares. அதாவது இந்தியாவில் கிடையாது. லிமிடெட் பை கேரண்டி அப்படிங்கிற இந்தியாவில் கிடையாது. சப்போஸ் மேபி ஹேப்பன் கலைக்கப்பட்டாச்சுனாக்க சொந்த சொத்துக்களை விற்று கொடுக்கணுங்கிற ஒரு இது வந்து இந்தியாவில் கிடையாது, வெளிநாட்டில் இருக்குது. அதுதான். பட் இந்தியா பொறுத்தவரையும் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கம்பெனி மேபி லிமிடெட் பை ஷேர்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு வந்து பர்ஃபெக்ஷன் சக்சஸன், அது ஃபார் கோ ஃபார் என்ன சொல்ற நெவர் எண்டிங் ப்ராசஸ், கோ ஃபார் எவர். A company is an artificial person created by law with a purpose, அதாவது நீடித்த வாழ்வுடையதுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க in Tamil terms. It is created by a process of law and can be put to an end only by process of law. Members come and go, but the company can go forever. அதாவது யாருமே வரலாம் போகலாம். Men may come and men may go. யாரும் வரலாம் போகலாம். Anti-dissolved. It continues to exist even if all its human members are deal. That is called perfection succession. Next one, common seal. Common seal means actually company means artificial legal person, but there is no getting for example. அதாவது கை கிடையாது, ஹேண்ட் கிடையாது. அப்போ அந்த சீல், அப்படி அந்த சீல் வந்து தோஸ் ஒரு ஆத்தரைஸ்டு பர்சன் அதை வச்சிருப்பாங்க. அந்த சீலை வந்து நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம் வந்து அது குத்துனாவே ஈக்குவல் டு சிக்னேச்சர்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அதாவது காமன் சீல் ஆக்ட் as the official signature of the company. And since a company has no physical existence, it must act through its agent. So all such contracts entered into by its agent must be ended under the seal of the company. Next, transferability of shares. There is no problem in public company. Transferability, transfer from one person to another person, there is no restriction. Then compare the public company, sorry, private company. Private company, there is no transfer. Before the transfer must concern from the BODs. But the public company, there is no transfer. Sorry, the transferability. அதாவது நம்ம யாருக்கு வேணுமோ என்ன பண்ணலாம், அது பங்குல வாங்கலாம், விற்கலாம். அதாவது என்ன சொல்றாங்க வந்து ஃப்ரீ டிரான்ஸ்ஃபரபிள். தீஸ் டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் சப்ஜெக்ட் டு சர்டன் கண்டிஷன்ஸ், ஃப்ரீ டிரான்ஸ்ஃபரபிள். Separate property, அதாவது as a company is a legal person distinct from its members, it is capable of owning, enjoying and disposing of property in its own name. சொந்த பேர்ல சொத்துக்களை வாங்கலாம், விற்கலாம். அதே போல கெப்பாசிட்டி இஷ்யூ, கம்பெனி யார் மேலாம் கேஸ் போடலாம், கம்பெனி மேலே யாரும் கேஸ் போடலாம். ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் தி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஹைலைட்ஸ் ரிகார்டிங் வாட் ஆர் த கேரக்டரிஸ்டிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஏ கம்பெனி. Next one, another important kinds of companies or classification of companies. There are, for example, 3 or 4 important broad heads, for example, classification on the basis of incorporation, statutory companies, registered companies. Then on the basis of liability, companies with limited liability, companies limited by shares, companies limited by guarantee, companies unlimited liability. Try to understand. On the basis of liability can be classified into 4 heads. Number 1, 2 heads. Number 1, companies with limited liability. அதில் ஒன்று சொல்லும் பொழுது companies limited by shares, by guarantee, unlimited liability. On the basis of number of members, private company and public company. On the basis of control, holding company, subsidiary company. On the basis of government and non-government, that is called, for example, what even that on the basis of incorporation or statutory companies. These are the companies which are created by special act of the parliament. For example, அதாவது பார்லிமெண்ட்ல ஸ்பெஷல் ஆக்ட் பாஸ் பண்ணி ஒரு நிறுவனம் உருவாக்கப்பட்டா that is called statutory company. For example, RBI, SBI, LIC, IFC, UTI. For example, RBI Act was passed in 1949, SBI Act was passed in 1955, Insurance 49, IFCI 1948. These are the example. UTI 1964. These are example statutory companies. Registered companies, these are the companies which are formed and registered under the Companies Act. அதாவது இந்திய அதான் சொல்லுவாங்க ரிஜிஸ்டர்ட் பதிவு செய்யப்பட்ட நிறுவனங்கள் சொன்னா எப்படின்னு சொன்னா, அதாவது இப்போ கம்பெனி வந்து ஒரு கம்பெனி ஆரம்பிக்கலாம்னு சொன்னா 2023 அதை பேஸ் பண்ண கம்பெனி ஆரம்பிக்கணும். ஸோ பிஃபோர் 2003 ஆரம்பிச்சிருந்தாங்கனாக்கா அவங்க 1956 ஆரம்பிச்சிருப்பாங்க. பிஃபோர் 1956 சொன்னால் அதுக்கு முன்னாடி என்ன இருந்துச்சோ தட் இஸ் கால்டு தான். அதாவது எந்த காலகட்டத்தில் அவங்க வந்து பதிவு பண்ணுறாங்களோ அப்போ என்ன நாம்ஸ் இருக்குதோ அந்த நாம்ஸை ஃபாலோ பண்ணுறது தான். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ரிஜிஸ்டர்ட் கம்பெனிஸ், தீஸ் ஆர் த கம்பெனிஸ் விச் ஆர் ஃபார்ம்டு அண்ட் ரிஜிஸ்டர்டு அண்டர் த கம்பெனிஸ் ஆக்ட் 1956 which were registered under the any of the earlier Companies Act. These are the most commonly found companies on the basis of liability, limited liability, companies by limited guarantee. For example, liability, next one on the basis of liability means company limited liability. are limited by shares. Each and in public company, each and every members liable up to the face value of shares. The liability of the members of this kind of the company is limited to the amount unpaid on the shares. அதாவது அவங்களுடைய முகப்பதிப்பு அடிப்படையில் வந்து வரலி அவங்களுக்கு என்ன பொறுப்பு உண்டு. Company limited by guarantee but not existing in India. அதாவது guarantee means at the time of agreement, at the time of winding up, some partners, some shareholders compensate to the company. For example, is called guarantee. அதாவது நிறுவனம் கலைக்கப்பட்டால் ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட தொகை தருவதாக ஒப்பந்தம் பண்ணினாங்க. That is called companies limited by guarantee. In this type of companies, the liability of the members is limited to a fixed amount which the members undertake to pay to the assets of the company in the event of its winding up. Try to understand, to pay to the assets of the company in the event of its winding up, the liability of its members is limited. Yes. Next one, company limited by guarantee. That is called next unlimited companies, but not exist in India. Section 12 of the Companies Act provides that 7 or more persons in the case of public companies, 2 or more persons in the case of private companies may form an incorporated company with or without limited liability. A company without limited liability is known as unlimited liability. அதாவது unlimited liability சொந்த போஸ் கலைச்சாங்கனாக்க சொந்த சொத்துக்களையாவது வித்து கடன் அடைச்சாகணும். அதுதான் வந்து அன்லிமிட்டட் லைபிலிட்டி சொல்லுவாங்க. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து கிளாசிபிகேஷன் ஆன் தி பேசிஸ் ஆஃப் நம்பர் ஆஃப் மெம்பர்ஸ். There are அது can be classified 2 parts, private company, public company. Private company means in 2000 Act 2013 Companies Act பார்த்தீங்கன்னா minimum number of members 7, maximum 250, not exceeding 250. அது based on என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க 2 பாயிண்ட் இருக்குது. அதாவது என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க மெயினாக சொல்லக்கூடிய பாயிண்ட் subscribed or not subscribed capital from the public. That is called public company. There is no changes. For example, minimum number of members 7, maximum, for example, unlimited. That is called, for example, the private company is normally when the a private company means a company which has a minimum paid up capital. That is old amount. Any other higher paid capital as maybe prescribed in the company articles of association restricts the rights to transfer of shares. Adu one. Limit the number of members not exceeding 250. Prohibits any invitation to the public to subscribe for any shares or debentures of the company. Any company. Next, in private company. Public company, a public company means a company which has a minimum paid up capital 5 lakhs, but later earlier amount, but now change the amount. At the same time, minimum number of members 7, maximum, for example, difference between minimum number of members 7, maximum, for example, no limit, no restrictions on maximum number. These are the important highlights. Okay. Then another important formation of a company. Just wait. Sorry. Classification on the basis of control. Either holding company, subsidiary company. A company is known as holding of another company if it is control over that company. That is called holding. A company known as subsidiary of another company when control is exercised by later called over the form is called known as subsidiary company. அதாவது பிடிப்பு நிறுவனம் சொன்னால் ஒரு நிறுவனம் மற்றொரு நிறுவனத்துடைய பங்குகளில் பெரும்பாலான பங்குகள் அவங்க ஹோல்டு பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. இல்லை இயக்குநர்களை கட்டுப்படுத்தக்கூடிய அதிகாரம் இருந்துச்சுனாக்க அவங்கள ஹோல்டிங் கம்பெனி பிடிப்பு நிறுவனம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. சப்சிடரி மீன்ஸ் துணை நிறுவனம் அப்படிங்கிறது யார் ஹோல்டுக்குள்ளே இருக்கிறாங்களோ நாம் அவங்கள நம்ம என்ன சொல்லுவோம் சப்சிடரின்னு சொல்லுவோம். தட் இஸ் கால்டு சப்சிடரி கம்பெனின்னு சொல்லுவோம் உங்களுக்கு வந்து அது. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து another important for example foreign company classification on the basis of ownership. Government company means more than 50% of contribution by the government, that is called government company. For example BHEL like that, railway transport like that சொல்லலாம். அதில் government company means a company in which the not less than 50% of paid up capital either central government or state government or partly by the central government and partly by one more state government சொல்லலாம். Non-government company means it is company controlled and operated by the private capital, that is called. Foreign company means it means any company incorporated outside India which has an established place of business in India. அதாவது வெளிநாட்டில் இன்கார்பரேட் பண்ணியிருந்து இந்தியாவில் பிஸ்னஸ் பண்ணியிருந்தா நாம் அதை என்ன சொல்கிறோம் வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் வந்து அதை வந்து நம்ம என்ன சொல்கிறோம் வந்து ஃபாரின் கம்பெனின்னு சொல்கிறோம். ஒன் மேன் கம்பெனி அப்படிங்கிறது 2013 வந்து ஒரு புதுசான ஒரு 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 டைப்ஸ் ஆஃப் கம்பெனி. ஒன் மேன் கண்ட்ரோல், அதாவது திஸ் இஸ் யூஸ்வலி a private company in which one man hold practically the whole of the share of capital in order to meet statutory requirements of minimum number of members. Some dummy number of members who already mostly his relatives or friends hold just 1 or 2 shares each. One man company like any other company is a legal entity distinguishes its members, that is called for example. Next one, another important for example incorporation of a company. Incorporation for example can be classified into number 1 for example promoter, number 2 certificate of incorporation, then registration. These are the important. Number 1 promoter. What do you mean that promoter? What do you mean that entrepreneur? The function of entrepreneur wants that promotes ideas into business. Promoter promotes into a business unit, that is called promoter. அதாவது யார் ஒருத்தர் வந்து ஒரு வியாபாரத்தை ஆரம்பிக்கணும்னு விரும்புகிறாங்களோ நாம அவங்கள தான் ப்ரொமோட்டர்னு சொல்கிறோம். For example, promote into a business unit. For example, how to start a new business unit. Number 1 idea, sources of idea, identification business opportunities, formation of business, like that. For example நிறைய இருக்கு. அதில் வந்து இந்த ஐடியான்னு சொன்னால் அந்த ஐடியா யாருக்கு உருவாகுதோ அதான் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் த ஃபங்க்ஷன் ஆஃப் ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர் ஒன்ஸ் தட் ப்ரொமோட்ஸ் ஐடியாஸ் இன் டு பிஸ்னஸ். யார் ஒருத்தர் ஒரு வியாபாரத்தை ஆரம்பிக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு காரணகர்த்தா இருக்கிறாரோ நாம் அவரை தான் நம்ம என்ன சொல்கிறோம் வந்து ப்ரொமோட்டர்னு சொல்கிறோம். ப்ரொமோட்டர் அவர் தான். Promote into a business unit. The promoter is a person who does the necessary preliminary work required for his formation of a company. ஒரு நிறுவனம் உருவாகிறதுக்கு அவர் தான் ஒரு காரணகர்த்தா இருக்கிறார். The first person who control a company's affairs or its promoters. It is they who conceive the idea of forming a company to attain specific goals. What do you conceive the idea? Source of conceiving the idea of forming a company to attain specific goals. It is they who take the necessary step to incorporate the company, provide it with a share and a loan capital, acquire the property of the company, like that. These are the important. But the functions of the promoter, அதான் சொன்னேன்ல உங்களுக்கு வந்து ப்ரொமோட்டர் சொன்னேன், அதுக்கப்புறம் சொன்னாங்க சர்டிஃபிகேட் ஆஃப் இன்கார்பரேஷன் சொன்னேன், ரிஜிஸ்ட்ரேஷன். இந்த 3 தான் வந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஃபார்மேஷன் சொல்லுவாங்க. ஃபார்மேஷன் ஆஃப் கம்பெனின்னு சொன்னால் இந்த 3 தான் வரும். ப்ரொமோட்டரு, சர்டிஃபிகேட் ஆஃப் இன்கார்பரேஷனு, அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து ரிஜிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் ஆஃப் கம்பெனி. ஃபங்க்ஷன்ஸ் ஆஃப் ப்ரொமோட்டர்னு சொல்லும் பொழுது நம்பர் 1 வந்து த ப்ரொமோட்டர் ஆஃப் த கம்பெனி டிசைட்ஸ் த நேம் அண்ட் என்ஷூர் that it will be accepted by the register of companies. He settled the details of the company's MOA. What is expansion? Memorandum of association. What do you mean that memorandum? external administration or external management of the company, ஒரு நிறுவனத்துடைய வெளி நிர்வாகத்தை பற்றி தெளிவாக குறிப்பிட்டிருக்கிறது தான் மெமோரேண்டம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Do you understand what I mean that? Memorandum of association, external management or external administration of the company. He settled the details of the company's memorandum of association. He nominated directors, legal advisors, bankers, auditors, the secretary and the registered office of the company. Another important, for example, the promoter of the company says the following. Next, he arranged for the printing of the memorandum of association, articles of association. Both are the basic documents of the company. What do you mean that? The association articles, bylaw, internal administration or internal management of the company. ஒரு நிறுவனத்துடைய உள் நிர்வாகத்தை பற்றி தெளிவாக குறிப்பிட்டிருக்கிறது தான் ஆர்டிகல் சொல்லுவாங்க. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், நம்ம ஒரு ஷேர் வாங்கணும்னு சொன்னால் அதெல்லாம் படிச்சு பார்க்கணும். படிச்சு பார்த்தா வாங்கணும். தட் இஸ் கால்டு ஆர்டிகல்ஸ். மெமோரண்டம் அப்படிங்கிறது எக்ஸ்டர்னல், ஆர்டிகல்ஸுங்கிறது இன்டர்னல். அதை பற்றி தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். He arranged for the registration of the company. In case of public company, he prepared the prospectus. What do you mean that prospectus? Public company anchinaaka invitation to the public. For example, for the purpose of getting the amount through issue of shares. அதாவது பப்ளிக் கம்பெனி anchina prospectus தகவலுக்கு ரெடி பண்ணணும். அது that is called invitation to the public அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. தகவல் அறிக்கை அப்படிங்கிறத வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அது மூலம் எதுக்காக இல்லை, நார்மலாக வந்து சொல்லும் பொழுது பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்கா உங்களுக்கு வந்து ப்ரைவேட் கம்பெனியை பொறுத்தவரை வந்து எல்லாமே ரெடி பண்ணி ஆர்டிகல்ஸு மெமோரண்டம் ரெடி பண்ணி ரெஜிஸ்டர் ஆஃபீஸில் கொடுத்தாருனாக்கா ரெஜிஸ்டர் ஓகே பண்ணாங்கன்னா பிஸ்னஸ் ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாம். ஆனால் பப்ளிக் கம்பெனியை பொறுத்தவரை என்ன பண்ணுன்னு சொன்னால் உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் எல்லா லீகல் டாக்குமெண்ட் கொடுத்ததுக்கு அப்புறமேட்டுக்கு சர்டிஃபிகேட் இன்கம் வாங்கிடலாம். வாங்கணும்னு பிஸ்னஸ் ஆரம்பிக்க முடியாது. சர்டிஃபிகேட் ஆஃப் கமெண்ட்ஸ் கூட பிஸ்னஸ்ங்கிறது வாங்கணும். எதுன்னு சொன்னால் அதுதான் பப்ளிக் கம்பெனிக்கு வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன். அப்போ அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் நம்ம என்ன பண்ண முடியும், வந்து ஷேர் வாங்க முடியும் பப்ளிக்கிட்ட. ஸோ அது முக்கியமானது. அதான் he prepared the prospectus and issue the same for raising capital through the public issue of shares. That is called, for example, இதுதான் உங்களுக்கு வந்து ப்ரொமோட்டார்ஸ். ப்ரொமோஷன்னா என்ன அதை பற்றி பார்த்தோம். நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து அனதர் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் சொல்லும் பொழுது சர்டிஃபிகேட் ஆஃப் இன்கார்பரேஷன் அப்படின்னா என்ன? that is called certificate of incorporation. means சொல்லுவாங்க ஆக்சுவலி this is the real birth of the company. என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க in Tamil terms தொழில் தொடக்க சான்றிதழ் சொல்லுவாங்க. that is called, அதாவது when all the required documents are filed with the registrar shall satisfy himself that all the statutory requirements regarding the registration have been complied with. The registrar is not required to carry out any investigation regarding the details given in the documents. The registrars retain all documents with him and issues a certificate of incorporation. That is called, by issuing this certificate, the registrar certifies that the company is, அதாவது நம்ம ஆர்டிகல்ஸ் கொடுத்துருவோம், ஆர்டிகல்ஸ் ரிப்போர்ட்லாம் கொடுத்துருவோம். அதை படித்து பார்த்துட்டு அவர் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆகிட்டார்னா அதுக்கப்புறமேட்டுக்கு என்ன பண்ணுவோம், சர்டிஃபிகேட் இன்கார்பரேஷன் கொடுப்பாரு. எப்போ நம்ம அதை வாங்குறோமோ அப்போ தான் வந்து அந்த கம்பெனி வந்து ரியலாக பர்த் ஆகுதுன்னு அர்த்தம். அதான் ரியல் பர்த் ஆஃப் த கம்பெனி. A certificate of incorporation given by the registrar to a company is the conclusive evidence that all the requirements of the Companies Act have been satisfactorily met by the promoters. The certificates conclude the following aspects. The requirements of the act in the respect of registration have been complied with, that the association in the company authorized by the registered of the act, that the date given on the certificate of incorporation of the real birth of the company. That is called, for example, registration means when a company is registered under the certificate of incorporation is registered, the important consequences follow. The company becomes a distinct legal entity. The company acquire a professional succession. The company's property is not property of the shareholders. That's all. These are the important highlights regarding, for example, formation of a company. Formation means எப்படி ஒரு நிறுவனத்தை உருவாக்கக்கூடியதுல என்னென்னலாம் முக்கியமாக இருக்குது. அதில் வந்து இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் பார்ட் ஃப்ரம் த ரிஜிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் பார்ட்டு, ப்ரொமோட்டர் பார்ட் மெயின் பார்ட், தென் ரிஜிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் பார்ட், தென் certificate incorporation part, very important part. Next topic to be continued next session, memorandum of association. What do you mean that the memorandum? This is one of the basic documents of the company. Once again, what do you mean that memorandum? Memorandum means external management or external administration of the company. That is called memorandum. This to be continued next session.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
The next session will start at 1 p.m. Yes, students. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
அப்புறம் ஆஃப்லைன் போய்க்கலாம். 1 o'clock திருப்பி ஆன்லைன் வாங்க.